Chapter 23-25. Blood splattered in the void as the Lul Sha King was smashed into pieces. Pieces of flesh and bones flew all over the sky. It was a ghastly sight. King! The other Lul Sha elites were all horrified. The king of their clan had been smashed into pieces by Lin Tian. They had never expected such a thing to happen. They didn't even think about it. Boom! Dark Saint Aura rushed into the 9 heavens. The Lul Sha King's body was smashed into pieces, but he was not dead yet. Shocking Saint Aura burst out from his shattered flesh and blood, and in the next moment, he reformed his body. After reforming his body, he stared at Lin Tian again. At this moment, the king of the Lul Sha clan's eyes became even colder. He was the king of a clan, and he was at the mid-stage of the rebirth realm. But now, his body had been smashed into pieces by Lin Tian, who was at the mid-stage of the Path Fusion realm. Even if Lin Tian had control over reincarnation, which was far superior to other powers, it was still unbearable for him. He looked at Lin Tian. The dark light that intertwined from his body became thicker, and his aura skyrocketed once again. A Lul Sha treasure realm appeared behind him. Dark light rushed into the sky from within, and each ray seemed to be able to annihilate everything. The divine chains of order within it rattled, and its aura was terrifying. I'll let you know that a bug will always be a bug. Even if you have an extra sharp blade, you're still just a bug. His eyes were cold. The Lul Sha treasure realm behind him immediately pressed down on Lin Tian, sealing all directions of the sky. Without a doubt, this was an extremely terrifying divine art. When combined with the power of order, its murderous aura was terrifying. As the Lul Sha treasure realm pressed down on Lin Tian, a hurricane swept out in all directions, destroying everything. Lin Tian's black hair danced in front of his forehead. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and murderous intent. His Rinnegan trembled slightly, and dense great reincarnation cracks appeared. Unparalleled reincarnation light surged, and it came from all directions, bombarding his opponent. The two collided in the blink of an eye, exploding into a destructive light that filled the sky. The power of the Lul Sha treasure realm was unparalleled. Together with the Lul Sha King's mid-rebirth transformation realm cultivation base and the terrifying power of his bloodline, it completely blocked the great reincarnation crack and the unparalleled reincarnation light. Furthermore, the Lul Sha treasure realm was slowly moving towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly in front of his forehead. His Rinnegan shook slightly, and more turbulent reincarnation light emerged, suppressing the world. The Rakshasa treasure realm trembled and was immediately stopped. Moreover, it continuously trembled under the pressure of the surging reincarnation light. At the same time, he took a step forward, stepping on the light of reincarnation as he closed in on Rakshasa King. Boom! Clang! He used one hand to perform the reincarnation fist technique, and the other hand to perform the reincarnation sword technique. The overbearing fist radiance and the sharp sword radiance appeared at the same time. They were truly powered by the power of reincarnation. That kind of power was countless times stronger than before. With a tearing sound, the Lul Sha treasure realm was forcefully torn apart. The reincarnation light, reincarnation fist radiance, and reincarnation sword aura, along with the great reincarnation cracks, pressed down mightily, enveloping Rakshasa King within. Rakshasa King's eyes became even colder, and there was a hint of shock and anger. He never thought that Lin Tian, who controlled reincarnation with his Path Fusion realm cultivation base, would be so powerful. The Lul Sha treasure realm great divine technique that he used with his mid-rebirth realm cultivation base contained the power of order of the 3rd stage. At this moment, it was actually disintegrated in the blink of an eye. As expected of the strongest reincarnation. Even in the hands of a worm like you, it can still have such unparalleled power. He stared at Lin Tian and didn't retreat. The Lul Sha treasure realm appeared again, and this time, its aura became even stronger as it faced Lin Tian. Lin Tian used one hand to perform the reincarnation fist technique, and the other hand to perform the reincarnation sword technique. He faced the reincarnation treasure realm that was pressing down on him. At this moment, he didn't do anything to defend and allowed the reincarnation treasure realm to land on his body. In an instant, he appeared in front of Rakshasa King. Rakshasa King's expression changed. Lin Tian didn't block his attack at all. This was out of his expectations, so when Lin Tian arrived in front of him so quickly, he couldn't do anything to attack or defend. He could only retreat. Lin Tian's body was stained with blood. After being hit by the Lulsha treasure realm head-on, he was naturally injured. However, at this moment, he didn't care about this at all. The reincarnation fist radiance and reincarnation sword radiance broke through everything and landed directly on Rakshasa King's body. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. More than half of Rakshasa King's body was turned into a bloody mess. Moreover, Lin Tian's hands landed on his body. The reincarnation fist radiance and reincarnation sword radiance were continuously destroying his flesh. Worm! This Rakshasa King was shocked and furious. He waved the Rakshasa holy light in his right hand and attacked Lin Tian's chest, forcing Lin Tian to retreat. Lin Tian's footsteps didn't change at all. The murderous intent in his eyes was terrifying. He allowed Rakshasa King's Rakshasa holy light to pierce through his body. The reincarnation fist radiance and reincarnation sword radiance in his hands became even more terrifying. The destructive aura increased by dozens of times. With a poof, half of Rakshasa King's body was directly shattered into pieces. Rakshasa King was shocked and furious. He roared angrily. His flesh and blood quickly gathered together, and with the Rakshasa treasure realm, he once again pressed down on Lin Tian. Inside the Rakshasa treasure realm, surging killing radiance and divine chains of order trembled. It was as if they could shatter everything in the world. In response, Lin Tian still didn't dodge. He also didn't do anything to defend himself. He allowed the Rakshasa treasure realm to drown him. His Rinnegan trembled slightly. At an extremely close distance, he opened up a heavenly river of reincarnation and immediately sucked Rakshasa King into it. Poof! A glaring bloody mist intertwined. In the heavenly river of reincarnation, the waves of reincarnation light rolled. Rakshasa King was crushed once again. Amidst his furious roar, his spirit rushed out with difficulty and quickly reformed his body. At the same time, Lin Tian was drowned by the Rakshasa light realm. His body was also crushed. Blood splattered everywhere. Only his spirit was left. Boom! His spirit erupted with boundless soul light. At this moment, he didn't repair his body at all. He used his spirit energy to wrap his flesh and bones, turning them into a blood wave that bombarded Rakshasa King, who was still reforming his body. Rakshasa King was immediately moved. He quickly retreated while reforming his body. However, Lin Tian didn't repair his body at all. He rushed forward at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, he rushed forward. His spirit, flesh, and bones directly drowned Rakshasa King's spirit, flesh, and bones as he madly attacked Rakshasa King. He used his spirit to tear apart Rakshasa King's spirit. He used his flesh to crush Rakshasa King's flesh, used his bones to collide with Rakshasa King's bones, and used his own blood to bombard the blood after Rakshasa King's body collapsed. For a moment, the two different types of spirit light became chaotic. The flesh became even more fragmented, almost turning into minced meat. The bones were almost turning into bone dregs. The blood was constantly disappearing in the collision. The scene was shocking to the eye. Get lost! Rakshasa King let out a furious roar. His spirit wrapped around the blood, flesh, and bones as he quickly retreated. Moreover, a monstrous black light appeared and forcibly broke free from Lin Tian. He quickly reformed his body tens of thousands of feet away. His eyes were full of flames of anger. Lin Tian's fighting style was really too crazy. He completely abandoned all defense and seemed to exist only for killing. He was like a killing machine. This made him, an ancient king, both angry and somewhat shaken at this moment. On the other side, after Rakshasa King broke free, Lin Tian also reformed his body at the same time. The reincarnation light intertwined outside his body. Endless Tao patterns intertwined in his eyes. They were mysterious and unfathomable. A faint light flashed, and a large area of reincarnation light appeared, pressing toward Rakshasa King in a mighty manner. Moreover, he once again charged forward from the front without any pause. Such a battle posture and such fearlessness caused Rakshasa King's eyes to become even colder. Fighting against Lintiani, as powerful as he did not have the slightest advantage. He was even vaguely at a disadvantage. "You ant!" he said coldly. Outside his body, wisps of incomparably thick aura appeared. Then, with a rumble, the saint energy outside his body instantly skyrocketed. After that, a giant beast emerged from behind him. It had a pair of wings on its back and 3 eyes on its face. It gave off an incomparably majestic feeling. At the same time, it also gave off an incomparably ferocious feeling. "Your Majesty's order ability increases your strength in all aspects by 10 times. At the same time, you condense an order heaven-swallowing beast that can swallow flesh, blood, true essence, divine power, saint energy, divine soul, Tao aura, order, and all other powers." One of the clan's prime elders couldn't help but speak up as he watched from afar. 10 times the combat power, a heaven-swallowing beast that can swallow all things. This is the strongest order ability. The other supreme elders spoke, their faces full of reverence. The aura of order was vast and mighty in Rakshasa Royal City. Due to the intense battle, much of the city had already been destroyed. Although reincarnation is strong, to be able to force me to use my order ability with a path fusion realm cultivation base, you're not bad at all, Bug. You should be proud of yourself. Looking at Lin Tian, Rakshasa King spoke, his eyes full of coldness. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his hand, and the 10-fold increase in combat power became extremely intimidating. Behind him, the heaven-swallowing beast roared into the sky as if it was real, pouncing towards Lin Tian with a ferocious look in its eyes. Lin Tian's light of reincarnation was forcefully knocked away. The heaven-swallowing beast pounced over crazily with the Rakshasa King's 10-fold increase in combat power. It was as if the blue sky was pressing down. Facing this scene, Lin Tian's expression did not change at all, and his footsteps did not stop at all. At this moment, the reincarnation spiritual forging technique was directly activated, and 20 times the combat power was instantly stacked. The aura around his body suddenly erupted like a torrent. At the same time, the reincarnation diagram appeared behind him. It was vast to the extreme, and the patterns on it were scattered all over like a sacred diagram of the creation of the heavens. As soon as it appeared, it emitted an incomparably vast and majestic feeling, as if it could suppress everything. It was his king's territory. Now, with his reincarnation body, the true power of the reincarnation diagram could be displayed. It was completely incomparable to before, and it had already undergone a complete qualitative change. The patterns on it were emitting wisps of origin reincarnation aura, as if they were reincarnation sacred patterns that were bred by heaven and earth. They were mixed with extremely dense reincarnation power. This is his aura. Why? That diagram. The expressions of the Rakshasa race's supreme elders and the other powerhouses changed drastically. They could clearly sense that Lin Tian's aura had suddenly become 20 times stronger, much stronger than that of the Rakshasa kings. Moreover, the appearance of the reincarnation diagram made their hearts palpitate. Facing this diagram, they only felt that their souls couldn't help but tremble while chills ran down their spines. Even the Rakshasa king was moved. He obviously did not expect Lin Tian's aura to suddenly skyrocket even more than his. Chapter 23-26. The reincarnation diagram was densely intertwined with the reincarnation saint runes. Dense reincarnation power surged, shaking the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, the reincarnation diagram flew up to meet the Devil King's heaven-swallowing beast. The two collided violently. In the end, the heaven-swallowing beast formed by the reincarnation diagram shattered with a sizzle. Lin Tian stepped forward. His rinnegan shook slightly, opening up many reincarnation rifts. Under the reincarnation forging art's 20-fold increase in combat power, its power became even stronger. Together with the reincarnation diagram, it enveloped the Devil King in the blink of an eye. The Devil King was shocked. He quickly retreated. At the same time, he propped up the light curtain of order, turning it into the sturdiest defensive barrier. Lin Tian took a step forward and pressed forward. The Rinnegan trembled again, and the speed of the reincarnation diagram suddenly increased. The cracks in the reincarnation diagram widened, and a whimpering sound came from within, as if 10,000 souls were screaming inside. In the blink of an eye, the reincarnation diagram landed directly outside the Devil King's body. With a sizzle, it shattered his defensive barrier and landed firmly on his body. Poof! Blood splattered everywhere. Under the reincarnation diagram, the Rakshasa King was torn into pieces on the spot. At the same time, the reincarnation rifts closed in, sucking in his broken body and spirit. Immediately, a furious roar came from the reincarnation rifts. Monstrous black light shook within. The next moment, with a crack, the reincarnation rifts shattered one after another. The Devil King reformed his body and rushed out. His body was covered in blood, and his body was covered in cracks. In many places, one could even see the eerie white bones inside. Clearly, after being crushed by the reincarnation diagram and sucked into the reincarnation rift, the Devil King was severely injured. However, this also showed how terrifying the Devil King was. After his body was crushed by the reincarnation diagram and sucked into the reincarnation rift, he was actually able to shatter the reincarnation rift and step out again. This was very terrifying. Although the important reason was that his cultivation level was higher than Lin Tian's by a major realm, it was still very shocking. Lin Tian's eyes were ruthless. He stared at the Devil King and took a step forward. The reincarnation diagram appeared again and was held in his hand. Like a saint diagram of the end of the world, it pressed down on the Luosha King. The Rakshasa King's cultivation base was much higher than Lin Tian's, but facing the reincarnation painting, he gritted his teeth and retreated once again. Lin Tian stepped forward with the reincarnation diagram in hand. His eye of reincarnation shook slightly, and the heavenly river of reincarnation appeared behind the Rakshasa King. Dozens of reincarnation cracks also appeared around the Rakshasa King, blocking all his escape routes and forcing him to fight head-on. The Rakshasa King roared angrily. The insects in his eyes had barged into this world and pressured him like this. With a loud bang, the divine powers of order appeared once again. The divine powers of order appeared one after another at this time. Fierce killing lights, dense Tao lights, unparalleled order, all moved together and pressed down on Lin Tian. In the blink of an eye, the killing lights, Tao lights, and order collided head-on with Lin Tian's reincarnation diagram, the surrounding heavenly river of reincarnation, and the dozens of reincarnation cracks. The power of the Rakshasa King's bloodline boiled, and a dense aura rumbled. Lin Tian's black hair danced in the wind. His eyes were filled with killing lights. The reincarnation diagram in his right hand shook violently. The heavenly river of reincarnation and the dozens of reincarnation cracks boiled together, shattering the killing lights, Tao lights, and order that the Rakshasa King summoned. Then, the reincarnation diagram fell mercilessly on the Rakshasa King's body, shattering it again. At the same time, the heavenly river of reincarnation and the dozens of reincarnation cracks pressed down together, enveloping the Rakshasa King entirely. In the blink of an eye, the Rakshasa King was completely submerged in it. His already shattered physical body immediately shattered even more. "Break for me!" the Rakshasa King roared. He was extremely powerful. Even though he was submerged in the reincarnation diagram, the heavenly river of reincarnation, and the dozens of reincarnation cracks, he was still not destroyed. His divine soul shook, and order surrounded him. In the blink of an eye, he reformed his physical body and broke out of the encirclement. Lin Tian stepped forward and appeared in front of him in an instant. He directly punched down. Dong! Heaven and earth shook violently. This punch landed firmly on the Rakshasa King's body, once again sending him into the encirclement of the reincarnation diagram, the heavenly river of reincarnation, and the dozens of reincarnation cracks. Then, he stepped into the encirclement and punched again. Now, he wasn't using an ordinary punch. Instead, he was using the reincarnation fist technique with the power of reincarnation. As the name suggested, it was the reincarnation fist. With a bang, the Rakshasa king was once again hit by the punch. Half of his body immediately became a bloody mess. Then, Lin Tian's fist didn't stop. He kept punching in the reincarnation diagram, the heavenly river of reincarnation, and the dozens of reincarnation cracks. Dense reincarnation fist shadows pressed down on the Rakshasa king like rain, almost shattering heaven and earth. At the same time, the reincarnation diagram, the heavenly river of reincarnation, and the dozens of reincarnation cracks shook together. The reincarnation light that filled the sky pressed down on the Rakshasa king along with his reincarnation fist radiance, sealing every inch of space around the Rakshasa king. And don't be too arrogant! The Rakshasa king's eyes were filled with fury. The Rakshasa treasure realm appeared again. Moreover, as the rule theurgy merged with it, an even more terrifying aura erupted. This time, hundreds of sky-swallowing beasts appeared together and pounced on Lin Tian crazily. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with boundless murderous intent and ruthlessness. He was filled with a murderous aura. Boundless reincarnation light boiled along with it. Boom! 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 After an intense collision, hundreds of sky-swallowing beasts were crushed one after another. The reincarnation diagram and the others also cracked bit by bit. After a dozen breaths, Lin Tian stepped forward. The reincarnation fist smashed down, breaking through everything and landing on the Rakshasa king's face. With a poof, the Rakshasa king's head was directly crushed. Blood mixed with brain matter splattered wantonly in the air. Under the intense collision, although the Rakshasa king's cultivation was far stronger than Lin Tian's, Lin Tian, who controlled reincarnation, was still on top. Boundless reincarnation light pressed down, drowning the rest of the Rakshasa king's body and crushing it into pieces. However, this naturally couldn't cause the powerful Rakshasa king to die just like that. His divine soul was extremely sturdy and showed no signs of shattering at all. His thick soul energy wrapped around his broken flesh and quickly retreated. As he retreated, he reformed his body. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with hatred. An even stronger reincarnation light rushed out of his body. The reincarnation diagram appeared again. The boundless reincarnation saint runes on it bloomed with dazzling light. Following his thoughts, they crazily pressed down on the Rakshasa king. Moreover, he also moved. At this moment, the reincarnation god slaying technique, reincarnation sword technique, reincarnation fist technique, and other theurgies blasted out one by one without mercy. They were all activated by the power of reincarnation. This space was completely sealed and suppressed. Poof! The Rakshasa king had just reformed half of his body when it was crushed with a poof. After that, various great techniques descended one after another. They all carried the power of reincarnation and mercilessly drowned the Rakshasa king. For a moment, the sound of flesh being crushed continuously rang out. The Rakshasa king's shattered body didn't even have time to reform before it was continuously crushed by Lin Tian again and again. Under the unparalleled power of reincarnation, the Rakshasa king continued to be injured. King! King! In the distance, the group of grand elders and other strong cultivators of this clan all trembled. Their clan's king was now being suppressed to this extent. At this moment, he couldn't even reform his body. Protect the king! Immediately, a strong cultivator of this clan roared. The group of grand elders and other strong cultivators all charged toward Lin Tian. For a moment, there was a rumbling sound. Boundless order and boundless holy light intertwined. Various great techniques were even more innumerable. When combined, they caused the space to shatter piece by piece. Scram! Lin Tian's eyes were ruthless. Suddenly, there was an explosion of thunder in the sky. The power of the fifth level of the five heaven-shaking thunder incantation manifested, causing dense black lightning to appear in the sky. It turned into a black thunderstorm that fell down. This thunder art was created by him in his previous life. At that time, in order to obtain the Tao of Fate, he cultivated it in an incomparably cruel manner. After cultivating it to a certain level, he heartlessly crippled himself and had to start all over again. This cycle continued, and he experimented with various cultivation methods recorded in ancient books. In addition to this cruel and unique cultivation cycle, he used this to comprehend the Tao of Fate. After hundreds of cultivation cycles, he finally comprehended the Tao of Fate. The path of destiny was on par with reincarnation and space-time. It was too powerful. Therefore, after he once again crippled himself to reach the half-step great path and comprehended the path of destiny, heavenly tribulations came again and again, each more terrifying than the last. After these heavenly tribulations, he created this thunder technique that could weaken the power of the heavenly tribulations to a certain extent. That was the only technique that he created in his previous life. At that time, only his teacher, the human king, knew of his true strength. He had already surpassed his 9 senior brothers. After he created the 5 heaven-shaking lightning art, he followed the clues of Lunhui Wang's whereabouts that he coincidentally found. He carried the power of destiny, and the power of the 5 heaven-shaking lightning art, and charged madly for the kill. But in the end, the difference in strength was like the difference between heaven and earth. On that day, if it wasn't for his master who arrived and saved him, he would have already died. It was also after that that he set his sights on the most powerful, supreme, and also the most dangerous reincarnation. Boom! Thunder roared, and the black lightning turned berserk. The extreme yang and strong thunderous might and pressure pressed down. Whoosh! 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 Soft sounds came out one after another. The order, Tao radiance, and various divine abilities that the group of Rakshasa powerhouses cast were shattered in an instant. Then, the blood mist exploded one after another. The dozens of Tao Fusion Realm's supreme elders and other Rakshasa powerhouses who rushed at the front had their bodies shattered one after another. Their divine souls were also annihilated by the black lightning. Such a scene caused the other Rakshasa powerhouses to tremble. They couldn't help but reveal fear in their eyes. In front of the current Lin Tian, they were actually so weak. Even the Great Elder, who was at the Tao Fusion Realm, was as weak as grass. Boom! Thunder boomed, and the sky shook. The Rakshasa royal city, which had been mostly destroyed, was shrouded in darkness. Bolts of black lightning fell, and together with the unparalleled light of samsara, they attacked the Rakshasa king's broken body. Moreover, the Rakshasa king's soul was also enveloped by the domineering light of extreme yang. Lin Tian roared. His eyes were filled with hatred and violence as he crazily bombarded the Rakshasa king. Die! 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 Chapter 23-27. Boom! The 5 heaven-shaking lightning incantation was full of yang energy. Black lightning bolts combined with the unparalleled power of reincarnation continuously bombarded the Rakshasa king. Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly in front of his forehead. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness. The power of the 5 heaven-shaking lightning incantation kept pressing down. The power of reincarnation bombarded the Rakshasa king continuously. All kinds of great techniques appeared one after another. Both of his fists smashed down on the Rakshasa king crazily. The reincarnation fist shadows completely enveloped the surroundings. Crack, crack, crack. The void shattered into pieces. The Rakshasa king's broken body was smashed again and again. Moreover, his divine soul was also exposed to Lin Tian's violent attacks and was continuously damaged. Get lost! With a furious roar, the Rakshasa king's soul light burst out. It was extremely powerful. It broke free from Lin Tian's attacks and reassembled a physical body not far away. However, in just an instant, Lin Tian closed in again and landed a punch on the Rakshasa king's face. With a poof, half of the Rakshasa king's face was directly smashed. Die! 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 Lin Tian roared. His eyes were red like an injured beast. The overflowing reincarnation light pressed down mercilessly again. In an instant, The Rakshasa king's physical body was crushed again. Once again, he was drowned by the violent attacks and was continuously injured. This king! How is this possible? In the distance, the other Rakshasa powerhouses were all trembling. Their king, their clan's patriarch, who was in the mid-stage reincarnation realm and had even displayed the power of order, was completely suppressed by Lin Tian, who was in the Tao fusion realm. The unparalleled reincarnation light made all of them tremble in fear. Some of them wanted to go over and help, but after witnessing the Liu Sha clan cultivators explode like weeds in front of Lin Tian, no one dared to casually step forward. Compared to the current Lin Tian, they were really nothing. Boom! The reincarnation light surged. All kinds of great techniques were unleashed. Lin Tian used great techniques one after another like a killing demon. In the eyes of reincarnation, countless Tao patterns intertwined and shone brightly. Huge reincarnation cracks appeared one after another, engulfing everything in all directions. Within them, whimpering sounds could be heard as if thousands of souls were screaming. Poof! Poof! Pooh! The Liu Sha king's physical body was shattered. His shattered body was exposed to such an incomparably violent attack. He was shattered again and again, and blood mist continuously spurted out. Like before, his spiritual soul was also exposed to such an attack and was continuously injured. Nonetheless, as the Rakshasa clan's great ancestor, the Rakshasa king was too powerful. Whether it was his aptitude or bloodline, they were unprecedented. Even though he was continuously injured by the violent attacks, he did not show any signs of dying. Worm! Enough! A furious roar rang out, shaking the heavens all around. The Liu Sha great world suddenly trembled at that moment. Radiance shone from every corner of the great world, turning into waves of holy light that rushed out and shrouded the already dilapidated Liu Sha royal city. Clang! Like clanging swords, waves of holy light rushed over and instantly became extremely dense. Some of them rushed into the body of the Rakshasa king, whose physical body had been shattered, allowing him to instantly break free from Lin Tian's attack. The other part of the holy light turned into killing holy swords. Like a rain of swords, they arrived in front of Lin Tian in the blink of an eye and pierced through Lin Tian's body. Blood splattered everywhere. That stinky worm from back then actually forced me to use the power of the world. The Rakshasa king's face was ashen and extremely gloomy. The same power as that lord. Reincarnation is indeed the strongest power. Although it is far from the power of reincarnation controlled by that lord, it still has such power. This is really good. Very good. Very good. As his words fell, his eyes became even colder. More holy light shone from every corner of the Liu Sha great world, and unparalleled power gathered in a steady stream. At the same time, around the dilapidated Liu Sha royal city, in the void, on the ground, and in the firmament, there were natural killing runes of heaven and earth appearing everywhere. Each killing rune was intertwined with monstrous sealing power and killing power, as if it could suppress and kill everything. Buzz! Clang! The killing runes born of heaven and earth bloomed with boundless killing light. The holy light from all over the Liu Sha great world clanged and turned into killing swords. The two combined and pressed down on Lin Tian mightily. Its momentum shook the heavens. This was the power of the entire Liu Sha great world, and at this moment, it was mobilized by the Rakshasa king. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even an ordinary early-stage true realm cultivator could only grieve in the face of such power. Poof! Once again, Lin Tian was penetrated. Blood splattered everywhere, and his body was dragged far away. You just control a trace of reincarnation, and you dare to barge into my origin world? What an arrogant thing! Looking at Lin Tian, the Rakshasa king's eyes were cruel. You worm, you will always be a worm. No matter how strong you become, you will still be an inferior creature. You have powerful martial arts, but your thinking is still inferior. You are unbelievably stupid. Rumble. An even more turbulent world power combined with the endless killing runes of heaven and earth in the Liu Sha royal city, as well as the Rakshasa king's powerful cultivation and shocking bloodline, The aura was extremely turbulent and terrifying. Once again, it blasted down on Lin Tian. Bam! Lin Tian was sent flying. His body was covered in blood, and cracks appeared on his sturdy reincarnation body. In an unknown location, there was an ordinary valley with ancient trees and dozens of short peaks. It looked ordinary. An old drunkard was wearing a white robe. He stood at the top of a short peak and looked at the Luosha world. In front of him, a stone seal the size of a baby's palm floated in the air. It was engraved with dense ancient runes. Suddenly, the stone seal trembled. The dense ancient runes shone, and a soul's shadow gradually appeared. Hazy holy light intertwined outside the soul's shadow, isolating everything. Nothing could be seen clearly except for a pair of extremely deep eyes. It was as if he had truly seen through the ups and downs of heaven and earth. Between heaven and earth, endless Tao lights appeared together at this moment. They were like the most loyal servants worshipping in this direction at the same time. Thousands of heaven and earth anomalies appeared together. With a slender body, the soul's shadow's gaze landed on an old drunkard. His deep eyes became even deeper as if they could contain the entire world. Human King! An old drunkard's gaze landed on the soul's shadow. A faint light flashed in his deep eyes. I've been wondering why his soul root is so powerful. It's so powerful that 90% of his potential has to be sealed to allow him to survive. So it turns out that he's your son. As he looked at the soul's shadow, his eyes gradually deepened. Vaguely, there seemed to be countless stars circling within them. Vaguely, there seemed to be pieces of heaven and earth shattering and reforming within them. Heavenly Emperor! The soul's shadow's eyes became even deeper. His gaze moved away from an old drunkard and swept into the distance. After 3 breaths, his deep gaze fixed on the distant Luosha great world. Ripples appeared in his eyes. What happened? Why is the stone seal in your hands? The soul's shadow spoke. His voice was not loud, but it naturally carried great majesty. It was as if he was the master of heaven and earth. Across an endless distance, he saw Lin Tian in the Luosha world. He saw Lin Tian's eyes full of hatred, violence, and madness. An old drunkard flicked his finger. A faint light entered the soul's shadow's glabella. The soul's shadow's deep eyes fluctuated again. Heaven and earth suddenly shook. Endless Tao light trembled along with it. In his deep eyes, traces of dim light emerged. Heaven and earth became deathly silent in an instant. All things fell into endless panic. Celestial Emperor, don't move. An old drunkard spoke. This is his battle. I've interfered twice. After this, no one is allowed to interfere. The soul's shadow looked at the Luosha world. The dim light in his eyes gradually dissipated. Those above the 9th dimension are kings. Those below the 9th dimension are still called human kings. Looking at an old drunkard, the soul's shadow took one last look at the Luosha world. Then, he slowly dissipated. Human King, I owe you a great favor. My child, I beg of you. As his words fell, the soul's shadow completely dissipated. Only a stone seal the size of a baby's palm remained suspended in midair. Luosha world, boom! The raging killing aura interweaved with the Luosha royal city, and from every corner of the Luosha great world, dense holy light surged towards the Luosha royal city. Endless killing runes of the heavens and the earth manifested and pressed down on Lin Tian. Poof! 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 Blood was splashing everywhere. The power of the entire Luosha world was shaking. With the Luosha king's strong cultivation and bloodline, Lin Tianzong was still at a disadvantage even though he had the reincarnation light and Rinnegan. He was injured again and again. You're the first one to break into my origin world like this. The first one to be so arrogant and stupid as to do this. The Luosha king said coldly. In the distance, the other Luosha powerhouses calmed down at this time. My king can mobilize the power of our entire great world. Just now, we were too worried for my king. There was no need to worry at all. In our world, ordinary true realm powerhouses will only die if they break in. That's right. several grand elders of the Luo Sha race spoke. Looking at Lin Tian, who was constantly injured by the power of the Luo Sha world and the saint runes of heaven and earth, they no longer had the fear and panic from before. They all calmed down. However, at this moment, as soon as these Luo Sha powerhouses finished speaking, an incomparably powerful aura suddenly rushed out of Lin Tian's body. Strands of saint runes of order intertwined and shook the surrounding space. In the eye of reincarnation, strands of complex Tao runes shone. Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness. At this moment, he swung his fist at the Luo Sha king. A dazzling fist light beam shot out from the tip of his fist, intertwined with a destructive aura that was several times stronger than the power of the Luo Sha world. It mightily pressed down on the Luo Sha king and arrived in front of him in the blink of an eye. All of the Tao radiance, killing light, order, and Rakshasa major world's world power that the Rakshasa king had blasted onto him before this was redirected back to the Rakshasa king with his order divine ability. Absolute counterattack. The Luo Sha king's expression changed drastically. You. Pfft. The dazzling fist light drowned everything and instantly shattered the Luo Sha king. A bloody mist filled the entire Luo Sha royal city. The Luo Sha king was extremely shocked and furious. His soul wrapped around the flesh and bones and quickly retreated, quickly reforming his body in the distance. It was also at this moment that an ear-piercing sword whistle resounded throughout the 3,000 great worlds. Chapter 23-28. The reincarnation sword was once forged by the human king in reincarnation. Its power was unparalleled. Not long ago, it was merged with the immortal Emperor Pagoda and became even stronger. Now, as soon as it rushed out, it emitted an extremely terrifying sword power that shook the entire Luo Sha great world. Clang! The ear-piercing sound of the sword shook the surroundings. Lin Tian held the reincarnation sword and slashed it in front of the Luo Sha king in the blink of an eye. The Luo Sha king hadn't completely reformed his physical body yet. Facing the terrifying reincarnation sword, he immediately retreated. Lin Tian's eye of reincarnation shook slightly. He forcefully opened a huge reincarnation crack behind him, blocking his retreat. At the same time, the reincarnation sword slashed down even more violently. With a crack, the boundless void was annihilated. The entire Luo Sha royal city was completely torn apart. The Luo Sha king couldn't dodge. Poof! Blood splattered. The powerful Luo Sha king was shattered again. King! Far away, the group of Luo Sha elites all changed their expressions again. A moment ago, they thought that Lin Tian was about to be suppressed and couldn't block the world power that their king used. However, at this moment, their king was heavily injured by Lin Tian again and again. Blood stained the void. Most importantly, Lin Tian actually used the origin power of their Luo Sha great world. Moreover, it was even stronger than the Luo Sha origin power in their king's hands. Clang! The sound of the sword resounded through the 9 heavens. The reincarnation sword in Lin Tian's hand was activated by the reincarnation sword technique, releasing boundless reincarnation sword light. In an instant, a rain of reincarnation swords appeared. They didn't give the Luo Sha king any chance to reform his physical body and ruthlessly press down. The Luo Sha king was shocked and furious. His soul wrapped around his shattered body and quickly retreated. He roared, "Cauldron, come!" With a rumble, a treasured cauldron rushed out from under the Luo Sha royal city. It had 3 legs and 2 ears, and it was dark. As soon as this cauldron appeared, a very dense aura immediately bloomed. Together with the world power of this world, it rushed toward Lin Tian mightily. It seemed to be able to suppress all worlds. Lin Tian did not retreat at all. He faced the attack head-on. His Rinnegan shook slightly and the reincarnation heavenly river intertwined. At the same time, the reincarnation sword in his hand became even more violent and attacked the King of Darkness cauldron. In the blink of an eye, the two collided and exploded into a sky full of light. The Rakshasa King cauldron was engraved with all kinds of strange patterns. It was extremely strong and sturdy, and its aura was very intimidating. The divine runes on the reincarnation sword were profound and unfathomable. Gradually, the divine runes on the sword became even more dazzling. Crack! A crisp sound rang out in the blink of an eye. The Lul Sha King cauldron was sent flying. A crack appeared on its surface and quickly spread out. Even with the support of the power of the world, this pinnacle-level reincarnation treasure weapon King Cauldron was still no match for the reincarnation sword. The Rakshasa King had already reformed his physical body. When he saw this scene, he was immediately moved and quickly put away the Rakshasa King Cauldron. Clang! The sound of the sword shook the 9 heavens. Lin Tian took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the Lul Sha King Cauldron that had been sent flying. He slashed down with his sword. This sword was even more powerful than the previous one. The space was cut into 2. The powerful Rakshasa King Cauldron was directly torn into pieces, turning into debris that filled the sky. Old bastard! Lin Tian roared. His eyes were filled with hatred. With a slight vibration, hundreds of reincarnation rifts opened up, sealing every void around the Rakshasa King and mercilessly suppressing him. Moreover, he was holding the reincarnation sword. The light of reincarnation intertwined, and endless sacred order runes surrounded his body. He forcefully shattered the power of the world that the Rakshasa King had summoned. Together with the hundreds of reincarnation rifts, he appeared in front of the Rakshasa King and slashed down with his sword. At the same time, the reincarnation portrait of the king's territory was once again supported by him. Together, it pressed down from the sky. Boom! In just an instant, this place turned into a source of destruction, and all directions shook. The Rakshasa King's expression changed in shock. He used the power of the world to protect his body and frantically bombarded Lin Tian to stop Lin Tian's attack. Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly, and he completely ignored the power of the Rakshasa King's world that was pressing down on him. He allowed that force to land on his body while the reincarnation rift, reincarnation sword, and reincarnation portrait landed on the Rakshasa King's body at the same time. Pfft! Blood splattered everywhere, and the Rakshasa King was immediately shattered. He couldn't withstand the reincarnation rift, reincarnation sword, and reincarnation portrait at all. Lin Tian forcibly withstood the power of the world and also collapsed at the same time. However, in the blink of an eye, he regathered his physical body. Damn it! The Rakshasa King also regathered his physical body and looked at Lin Tian with extreme shock and anger. His Rakshasa King Cauldron was actually destroyed by Lin Tian just like that, and Lin Tian always completely abandoned defense time and time again. He didn't care about the Rakshasa King Cauldron at all and attacked him like a lunatic, causing him to suffer great injuries again and again. This kind of fighting style made him extremely angry. It was also at this moment that with a boom, a holy light burst out from Lin Tian's body. The Endless Order Saint runes shone brightly, and the absolute counterattack was activated once again. The power of the Rakshasa world that had landed on the Rakshasa King's body was multiplied and blasted towards the Rakshasa King. You! Pfft! The Rakshasa King couldn't withstand twice the power of the Rakshasa world at all and was instantly shattered again. How did you do it? After regathering his physical body again, the Rakshasa King was extremely shocked and furious. Lin Tian actually blasted out the power of the Rakshasa world's origin twice. Moreover, it was even more powerful than the Rakshasa King's. It was twice as powerful. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with killing intent. He didn't say anything else. Holding the reincarnation sword, he took a step forward. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing, shaking all directions. He used the reincarnation sword technique with the reincarnation sword. The reincarnation light kept pressing down, and the reincarnation diagram sealed all directions. Together, the Rakshasa King, who could mobilize the power of the Rakshasa world's origin, gradually regained the upper hand. With the extremely sharp reincarnation sword, he slashed through everything, shattering the killing runes of heaven and earth that were all over the Rakshasa royal city. He sent the Rakshasa King flying again and again. Blood splashed in the Rakshasa royal city. It was his blood, but more of it was the Rakshasa king's blood. The entire Rakshasa royal city had been completely turned into ruins. The aura of destruction intertwined in every corner of the city. Pft, pft, pft. Time and time again, it was either him or the Rakshasa king who was blasted into pieces. All kinds of different forces collided here. In the blink of an eye, a full 7 days and 7 nights had passed. Worm! You won't have a good ending! After 7 days and 7 nights of fierce battle, the Rakshasa king was extremely weak on this day. His eyes were full of shock and anger. On this day, he avoided Lin Tian and fled out of the Rakshasa world. After 7 days and 7 nights of fierce battle, facing Lin Tian's incomparably crazy method of exchanging life for life, the Rakshasa clan's ancestral king finally felt fear. The current Lin Tian was too strong. The reincarnation light suppressed everything, and the reincarnation sword shattered everything. Even though his cultivation was only at the path fusion realm, his true combat strength was extremely frightening. Now, he had completely suppressed him. The endless killing runes of heaven and earth that were intertwined in this Rakshasa world were almost completely shattered by Lin Tian. At this time, he could only choose to escape because now he could no longer stop Lin Tian, who had the reincarnation sword. Whoosh! A world portal opened, and he stepped into it. The world portal closed, and he disappeared from the Rakshasa world in the blink of an eye. King! King! The group of Rakshasa powerhouses were stunned. Their king actually escaped? Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly, and his eyes were fierce and violent. He looked at the place where the Rakshasa king had escaped. Blood flowed out of his reincarnation eyes. At that place, the world portal reappeared, and the Rakshasa king was wrapped in the thick reincarnation light and pulled out from inside. You! After being pulled back and looking at Lin Tian again, the Rakshasa king was horrified. He had clearly stepped into the world portal and left this world, but he was forcibly pulled back by Lin Tian. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. Lin Tian stepped forward. Blood flowed out of his reincarnation eyes, and the reincarnation sword light that filled the sky slashed mercilessly at the Rakshasa king. He had held on for 7 days and 7 nights with the newly opened reincarnation eyes. Now, his eyes were already in extreme pain. However, he didn't feel anything about it. It was as if he couldn't feel this pain at all. There was only murderous intent, hatred, and violence in his eyes. At this moment, he was like a demon born to kill. The dense reincarnation sword light fell in front of the Rakshasa king in the blink of an eye, and fell on his body along with the reincarnation light. Poof! Blood splattered. The weakened Rakshasa king couldn't withstand such an attack at all and was directly shattered. However, his divine soul was extremely powerful and immortal. Wrapped in broken flesh and bones, he once again reformed his body. However, Lin Tian stepped forward and pressed down on him with all kinds of attacks. Poof, poof, poof. Blood mist continued to splatter. The powerful Rakshasa king's broken body became more and more broken under Lin Tian's attacks. Die! 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 Lin Tian roared. Blood flowed out of his reincarnation eyes. At an extremely close distance, the reincarnation light suppressed everything, not giving the Rakshasa king any chance to dodge. Like a wild beast, he continuously punched at the Rakshasa king's broken body and divine soul. Blood splattered everywhere, and the void in all directions was constantly broken and annihilated. Ah! Even someone as powerful as the Rakshasa king couldn't help but scream under such crazy and brutal attacks. At the same time, he quickly reformed his body, trying to escape from Lin Tian's attack range. However, it was useless. Under Lin Tian's violent attacks, every time he reformed a part of his body, it would be shattered, and the damage to his divine soul would become more and more severe. In the blink of an eye, another 2 hours passed. Another 2 hours later, the Rakshasa king let out a cry of terror, unwillingness, and despair. Under Lin Tian's ferocious attacks, the Rakshasa king's soul was constantly being damaged. Just as his head reformed, His soul was completely destroyed by Lin Tian. The body below the head couldn't reform, and his divine soul was completely gone, disappearing between heaven and earth. Only wisps of blood mist lingered around the last head. Only Lin Tian stood beside the head. In the distance, a group of Rakshasa powerhouses trembled. Their king had actually been killed by a human in the Tao fusion realm in their own great world. No! Impossible! Impossible! Chapter 23-29. How is this possible? How is this possible? It's impossible! Looking at the head of their king, the Rakshasa powerhouses who were in a daze finally couldn't help but yell. The group of powerhouses charged toward Lin Tian in a frenzy. Boom! The power of order and the killing light of the path immediately spread out, almost completely suppressing the world around them. In the blink of an eye, the group of people charged toward Lin Tian. The surging power of order and the killing light of the path were annihilated one after another. All the Rakshasa powerhouses who rushed within 3 feet of Lin Tian trembled, including the Grand Supreme Elders of the Path Fusion realm. They were immediately disintegrated by the reincarnation aura surrounding Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian didn't care about these people at all. He closed his rinnegan and looked at the head of the Rakshasa king in front of him. His hands were full of blood, dripping down drop by drop. It was the blood that came from attacking the Rakshasa king in a frenzy just now. The violence and madness in his eyes subsided at this moment. He picked up the remaining head of the Rakshasa king and turned to walk out of the dilapidated Rakshasa royal city. He ignored the Rakshasa powerhouses who kept attacking him, allowing them to be crushed by the reincarnation aura within 3 feet of him. In the blink of an eye, he stepped out of the Rakshasa royal city and the Rakshasa world. Stepping out of the Rakshasa great world, he walked into the distance. Dense sacred runes of order appeared around his body. Boom! Majestic sacred aura surged. In these 7 days of fierce battle, the Rakshasa king had mobilized all the power of order, the power of the path, the power of the world's origin, and so on that fell on him. At this moment, he used the power of order. All the power in 7 days and 7 nights merged together and doubled in strength, turning into a killing sword that slashed toward the Rakshasa great world behind him. Absolute counterattack. In these 7 days, all the killing power that fell on him doubled in strength and turned into a killing sword. This was the sword of destruction. In the next moment, the sword of destruction firmly struck the Rakshasa great world. The world barrier of the magnificent and huge Rakshasa world completely collapsed. Then, cracks spread rapidly, and finally it exploded. In this empty world, behind it, there was a huge destructive firework. The roots of the Rakshasa race had completely disappeared. Carrying the Rakshasa king's head, his expression did not change at all. He looked a little numb as he walked away step by step. Not long after, he stepped into the Grand Mist universe and returned to the 10 Directions heavenly domain. He returned to the small spiritual domain. The center of spirit realm was filled with ruins. They had been here for a very, very long time. Arriving at this place, he placed the Rakshasa king's head in front of the ruins. He knelt down in front of the ruins, lost in thought. In the blink of an eye, he knelt here. 3 days passed. 3 days later, he stood up, paused for a moment, and looked toward the southern region of the 9th heaven. After taking one last look at the ruins in front of him, he turned around and left this spiritual realm. Soon after, he arrived at the immortal Spirit Mountain Valley in the southern region of the 9th heaven. He appeared in front of a large red stone. The large rock was very rough, and it was covered with a lot of dust. There was some grass around it, and it looked very ordinary. When he came here, he looked at the sky, paused for a moment, and then disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in a small world. Inside the small world, there were intertwining lights, and the immortal spirit light was everywhere. It gave people a feeling of harmony and harmony. It was the heavenly secret dojo of the divination sect. This dojo was left behind by the ancestor of the divination sect. Originally, only the immortal spirit body could open the door and enter this place by relying on special immortal spirit runes. However, with his current cultivation, he was no longer restricted by these restrictions. He stepped into this world. His steps were slow and steady. Not long after, he stepped into a celestial spirit white tower in this world. The space inside the tower was very wide, and there were wisps of immortal spirit light lingering around it. There were no layers, and the top was a scene of silver mixed with black light. There were illusory stars twinkling, and there were very rich Tao lights intertwining. The light of reincarnation spread out from his body, and soon spread throughout the entire white tower. Gradually, an illusory figure appeared, and gradually turned into a woman. Her beauty was peerless. Most importantly, the woman's temperament was extraordinary. As she manifested, the surroundings were naturally surrounded by celestial light. She was the founder of the divination sect, the progenitor of the divination sect. Shuhi? Looking at the woman, Lin Tian said. The progenitor of the divination sect trembled. At this moment, he wasn't surprised that he had appeared again, nor was he surprised to see Lin Tian again. He was only moved by the two words Lin Tian said. You remember everything? Looking at Lin Tian, the progenitor of the divination sect, this beautiful woman's eyes rippled with excitement, and her illusory body couldn't help but tremble. Lin Tian's lips moved. It really is you. In the past, before he reincarnated, he met an 11-year-old girl. She was an ordinary person, and her clothes were tattered. Because of the war between empires in the mortal world, she was alone. In a forest, she was pounced on by a fierce wolf. He happened to see her at that time, and saved her. At that time, he was walking on the path of hatred, and couldn't bring the little girl by his side. He also saw that she had the immortal spirit king body, so he taught her a set of ancient cultivation scriptures, and personally led her in cultivation for half a month before leaving. The girl's name was Shuhi. After reincarnating, he had regained his memories. Many things flashed through his mind again and again. He remembered the Tianji dojo he had entered before he regained his memories. He remembered the chi of the Tianji dojo he had seen before. It was exactly the same as the girl from before. So, at this time, he came to this place. He finally understood why this woman had bowed to him before he regained his memories. You've deduced everything? He looked at Shuhi. After reincarnating before his soul, which had turned into a sword soul, completely merged into his body, it was impossible for ordinary people to see his true identity. Even his 9 senior brothers couldn't detect it. But Shuhi obviously knew who he was at that time. It wasn't because she saw it, but because she knew him from the beginning. It was the result of her calculation. Benefactor, please forgive me, Shuhi said. Back then, benefactors gazed Shuhi cared a lot. War between mortal empires could erupt at any moment, and in those wars, the ones who suffered the most were undoubtedly the common people. Her family had perished in the flames of war when she was very young, leaving her all alone. She had been fleeing for years, unable to eat her fill or wear warm clothes. One day, when she was pounced on by a ferocious wolf, she felt that she was going to die. She was going to be free. Soon, she would leave this war-torn world, leave this world where she could neither eat her fill nor wear warm clothes, and reunite with her parents. However, she didn't die. Lin Tian appeared at that time, saved her, and took her with him for half a month. During that time, he let her eat every day, bought her new clothes, taught her immortal-like spells, and personally led her in cultivation. She fled alone for several years, and her parents were long gone. During those years, she didn't know what a good life was at all. She was hungry and cold every day. During the half a month when Lin Tian appeared, she felt warmth that she hadn't felt for a long time, and understood what a good life felt like. During that half a month, she felt that Lin Tian was an angel sent to her by the heavens. He was too good to her. Apart from her parents, no one else had ever been so good to her. During that half a month, she followed Lin Tian every day. She was incomparably happy. However, during this process, she also noticed that Lin Tian, who had been very good to her, would be in a daze from time to time. Hatred, madness, and pain would appear in his eyes from time to time. These expressions were deeply imprinted in her mind. After that, half a month passed. When she had a certain amount of self-control, Lin Tian silently left. She began to cultivate by herself, and gradually became stronger. Her immortal spirit body reached large success, and many years later, she created the divination of the heavens. She couldn't help but begin to calculate Lin Tian's whereabouts. She wanted to see Lin Tian again, and at the same time, she couldn't help but calculate Lin Tian's past. This was because she cared too much about the hatred, madness, and pain in Lin Tian's eyes. She couldn't forget it. She wanted to know what the person who saved her, who was so good to her, had experienced. Why did he have such hatred, madness, and pain in his eyes? Thus, with her large success immortal spirit body and the divination of the heavens, she saw blurry images and understood everything about Lin Tian's past. She even calculated that Lin Tian would be reincarnated in the future, and what would happen after that. It was also because of that calculation that involved reincarnation that even though she had the immortal spirit body, which was known as the darling of all Das, and her immortal spirit body had reached large success, she still suffered a devastating blow. Although her body and soul weren't directly destroyed at that time, she wasn't far from death. Then, on that day, in a limited time, she created the divination of the heavens, took in a group of disciples, and passed down the divination of the heavens. Then, she smelted her own physical body, and used her skull and a small part of her origin to refine the divine mirror of heavens. She used other immortal spirit origins to fuse with all Das to create the divine mirror of heavens. She placed the divine mirror of heavens in it, and waited for future disciples with immortal spirit bodies to come and obtain the divine mirror of heavens. She used this divine realm and the divination of the heavens to help Lin Tian after reincarnation. The Heaven's Secret Dojo was condensed from Shu He's immortal spirit origins fused with all Das. It is constantly absorbing the Tao power between heaven and earth. It can help you. Ever since you left, Shu He has always missed you. She has always wanted to see you. She has always wanted to find you. She has always wanted to call you master. Back then, it was Lin Tian who saved her. It was Lin Tian who taught her cultivation and led her on the path of cultivation. In her heart, Lin Tian was not only her savior, but also her teacher who taught her the Tao. Her figure began to dissipate like before, completely disappearing. She faced Lin Tian and bowed to Lin Tian as a disciple. Master, I wish you vengeance in this life. Once she finished speaking, her figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the White Tower and the Heaven's Secret Dojo trembled. Everything in this small world began to shine brightly and turned into pure Tao light. It was like an ocean of Tao that swept madly towards Lin Tian and endlessly surged into his body. This Tao light was formed after Shu He's immortal spirit origins fused with all Das. Over the years, it had absorbed the power of all Das in this place. As it surged into his body, everything Shu He had experienced and everything she had divined about him appeared in his mind, causing his body to tremble violently. Chapter 2330. Recalling the past, he only sensed that the Tianji primogenitor he had met before was the Shu He from back then. She was the first girl he personally taught in cultivation, so he was more or less concerned about her. As a result, he came to this place again and used the light of reincarnation to manifest the other party's remnant will once again. He wanted to know why the other party gave up her life back then, using her own skull and a small portion of her immortal essence to forge the Tianji divine mirror. However, he never thought that the reason was actually like this. Back then, because Shu He wanted to see him and find him, he used the divine divination of heavenly secrets that he had painstakingly created to calculate his whereabouts. Because he cared about the hatred, madness, and pain in Shu He's eyes, he used the divine divination of heavenly secrets to calculate what he had experienced in the past. However, it involved reincarnation, and because of that, he suffered the disaster of destruction. His body trembled, he couldn't help but roar. He was angry for the hatred, madness, and pain in his eyes when he brought the girl to cultivate. If he didn't reveal that kind of expression back then, Shu He wouldn't have calculated what he had experienced in the past, and wouldn't have come into contact with reincarnation. She wouldn't have suffered the calamity of destruction because of her calculations. For him, she used her own skull and a small portion of her immortal essence to forge the Tianji Divine Mirror, all for the sake of waiting for the future disciples with immortal spirit bodies to obtain the Tianji Divine Mirror. Then, she would use the Tianji Divination and Tianji Divine Mirror to assist him after reincarnation. For him, she used a large portion of her essence to create the Tianji Dojo, causing the Tianji Dojo to continuously gather the Tao energy of heaven and earth here. She gathered the endless Tao energy here for him after reincarnation, all for the sake of increasing his strength. For him, she left her remnant will here. Even though she was very excited when she saw him after reincarnation, she still forcefully suppressed that excitement, all for the sake of not disrupting his normal path after reincarnation. She silently waited for him to control reincarnation before coming here again. Back then, she wanted to use all of this to avenge him as much as possible. Everything she did for him made his heart ache, as if 10,000 swords were ruthlessly stabbing him. The Tianji Dojo turned into 10,000 streaks of Tao radiance, and unceasingly entered his body. He clenched his fists, his fingernails deeply digging into the flesh of his palms. His hatred towards Luanhui Wang and the others became even stronger. If it wasn't for those people, this wouldn't have happened. Buzz! The Tianji Tao field was boiling. Everything inside was shining brightly, completely condensed from Tao light. At this moment, all the Tao light was flowing into Lin Tian's body in an endless stream. It was so pure that Lin Tian didn't even need to refine it. It directly fused into every corner of his body, causing his essence, qi, and soul to grow unceasingly. At the same time, his cultivation was also increasing rapidly. Outside the primordial universe, in a majestic great world, the Yellow Springs Great World. What? At that moment, in the Yellow Springs Great World, within the Yellow Springs Royal City, the upper echelons of this lineage were all moved. Not long ago, they received news that the Luo Sha race's great world had disappeared, destroyed. This shocked the entire clan. The Rakshasa clan was an ancient clan that was on the same level as their clan. The Rakshasa king was at the middle level of the Luo Sha realm, overseeing the Rakshasa world. There were also other experts in the clan. But now, this clan that was on the same level as their Yellow Spring clan was actually destroyed. The world where the clan was established had completely disappeared. How is this possible? Even if the old demon of the immortal spirit royal family made a breakthrough, it is impossible for him to do this. Who is it? Could it be the human king? On this day, the upper echelons of this bloodline were filled with shock and horror. The Rakshasa race was actually destroyed, and the entire world where the race was founded had disappeared. In their knowledge, outside of the heavenly court, only the human kings could do such a thing. At the same time, the upper echelons of the Nine Nether lineage and the Underworld lineage also discovered this. Like the Yellow Spring lineage, these two great clans were also shocked. For a moment, the kings of these two great clans left the great world of their clans and soon appeared at the place where the Rakshasa world used to be. The Yellow Spring king also appeared at the same time. The three ancient existences at the Luo Sha realm stood in the empty space and looked ahead. There used to be a majestic macro world there, the Luo Sha macro world. But now, there was no trace of the Luo Sha macro world. There was only dust and debris as far as the eye could see. Reincarnation aura! A cold voice suddenly sounded. 4 figures appeared at this place, and their spirits were much stronger than the Yellow Spring King, the Nine Nether King, and the Underworld King. Seeing these 4 people, the ancestor of the Yellow Spring clan, the Nine Nether King of the Nine Nether clan, and the Underworld King of the Underworld lineage all bowed. The 3 of them naturally recognized these 4 people. They were 4 of the 9 divine guards of the Reincarnation King, named Xianyin, Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai. All of them were at the true realm. This aura doesn't belong to the human king. The human king doesn't have the reincarnation aura, so it is even more impossible for that lord to come here and destroy the Rakshasa clan. Could it be? The Yellow Spring King's eyes narrowed, and he was in disbelief. Is it that reincarnated body? Has he already mastered reincarnation? Other than him, there can't be anyone else. Xianyin said, and his eyes were cold. It's that insect from back then. At the end of the Xianhuang Great Destruction, the reincarnation king appeared and saw Lin Tian from far away. Because he had the reincarnation aura, he saw through Lin Tian's identity at a glance. Xianyin, Xianyang, and the rest of the 7 divine guards who followed the reincarnation king naturally knew about this. They learned from the reincarnation king that Lin Tian was the only survivor of that small tribe back then. What? Hearing Xianyin's words, the Yellow Spring King's expression changed. The 9 Nether King and the Underworld King's expressions changed at the same time. They naturally knew who the insect from back then that Xianyin mentioned was. The Human King's youngest disciple. The reincarnated body is him? The Underworld King's eyes narrowed. Not long ago, Xianyin and the others told the 4 ancient clans to suppress the reincarnated body Lin Tian, but they didn't reveal the true identity of Lin Tian. The 3 of them didn't know until now, and they couldn't help but feel shocked. That human from back then had already reached such a height? I heard that the reincarnated body had the Eye of Destiny, and I suspected that it might be the insect from back then. Back then, that insect also obtained the power of destiny after racking his brains. The 9 Serenities King said in a deep voice. I didn't expect it to be him. The 9 Serenities King frowned, as did the Netherworld King and the Underworld King. Lin Tian, the only survivor of that small tribe, had once wanted to take revenge on them. However, they didn't care about Lin Tian back then because Lin Tian was too weak and wasn't on the same level as them. The difference was too great. At that time, the only thing that made them fear was that Lin Tian had become the disciple of the Human King. If it weren't for the Human King, Lin Tian would have been obliterated by them, and he wouldn't have survived until now. In the past, they didn't care about Lin Tian at all, and were only afraid of the Human King behind Lin Tian. But now, seeing the destroyed Luosha macro world, they felt a chill run down their spines. The weak human in their eyes back then had controlled samsara after being tainted by it, and now he had reached such a height? He had killed the Luosha king and destroyed the entire Luosha macro world. Even if it were the 3 of them, it was absolutely impossible for them to do such a thing. In other words, Lin Tian's current battle strength had already surpassed the 3 of them. Xianlai said coldly. He only wants revenge. That insect will find one of the 3 of you in the future. It seems that after controlling samsara, the 3 of you will no longer be able to deal with him alone. The Samsara Divine Guard of the True Realm said, prepare the teleportation formation in each of your clan's worlds. Once he appears in any of your worlds, inform the other 2 immediately. The other 2 will rush over immediately. The guard continued. Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Nie are guarding that lord in the Xianhuang universe. They can't move for the time being, but the 4 of us can. When the time comes, we will appear together. This time, if he dares to come, he won't be able to escape. Primordial Universe, 10 Directions Celestial Domain, Hum. In the Heavenly Secret Dojo, Tao light surged like stormy waves, but it was incomparably gentle and pure, constantly pouring into Lin Tian's body. Standing in the White Tower, Lin Tian clenched his fists in anger, hatred, and heartache. However, he couldn't do anything. Back then, the first girl he personally taught cultivation, the girl named Shu He, had completely disappeared. What he manifested with the light of samsara was only Shu He's obsession. It couldn't even be considered a spiritual consciousness, so there was no possibility of her resurrection. She died because of him. She created the heavenly secret realm for him. She created the heavenly secret dojo for him. Now, the extremely pure Tao light of heaven and earth continuously poured into his body. He could clearly feel his essence, qi, and spirit constantly strengthening, and his cultivation constantly improving. However, what he felt more clearly was pain. The kind of pain that went deep into his soul. Hum! Tao light surged, and the heavenly secret dojo was cracking. The cracked parts, the sky, the rivers, the plants, and even the soil were no exception. were all condensed and manifested by the Tao light. Now, everything had turned into primitive Tao light again, all of it rushing into Lin Tian's body, causing his essence, qi, spirit, and cultivation to rise even faster. Soon, he reached the peak of the Tao fusion realm. And this was far from over. Endless Tao light surrounded and continued to pour into Lin Tian's body. There was no need to refine it at all. It naturally integrated into every inch of his flesh, blood, bones, and spirit, causing his essence, qi, spirit, and cultivation to continue to rise. In the blink of an eye, a total of 9 days had passed. 3 days later, 90% of the heavenly secret dojo had disappeared. Lin Tian's figure appeared in the immortal spirit valley outside the heavenly secret dojo. At this moment, the aura outside his body had undergone another transformation, forcefully reaching the rebirth realm from the peak of the Tao fusion realm. Immediately, there was a thump, and in the sky above, there was a thunderous explosion. Chapter 23:31. Thunder rumbled, shaking the 9 heavens. A huge lightning vortex appeared above Lin Tian's head. Black lightning interweaved wantonly, as if it wanted to destroy everything. The aura of destruction shrouded Lin Tian completely. Such an aura spread throughout the entire 10 directions heaven domain. Countless living beings in the vast 10 directions heaven domain trembled in fear at this moment, intimidated by the surging lightning might. Boom! Another ear-piercing thunder exploded. In the dim sky, in the dark clouds, the first round of heavenly punishment fell. This was an incomparably vast sea of lightning, completely condensed from lightning. As soon as it appeared, it suppressed everything in the 10 heavens. The terrifying thunder arrived above Lin Tian's head in the blink of an eye. Get lost! Lin Tian was filled with anger and heartache. This feeling had never dissipated as the light of the heavenly mystery dojo continued to pour into his body. At this moment, the Rinnegan naturally appeared. With a roar, the first round of heavenly punishment collapsed on the spot. At the same time, in the sky, the dark lightning vortex shook violently, then shattered into pieces and collapsed in a blink of an eye. The vast 9th heaven became bright again. In the sky, 7 colored auspicious clouds emerged, and the pure power of heaven and earth fell, shrouding him in it. This pure power of heaven and earth poured into his body along with the tens of thousands of Tao lights of the Tianji dojo, causing his aura to continue to rise. His flesh, blood, bones, and divine soul became stronger and stronger. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. 3 days later, the Tianji dojo completely disappeared. Everything turned into the purest Tao light that poured into Lin Tian's body, causing Lin Tian's cultivation to stop at the early stage of reincarnation realm. Standing in the immortal valley, wisps of white mist floated. Lin Tian stood in the valley for a long time without moving. In the blink of an eye, he stood there for another 3 days. Another 3 days later, on this day, his tightly clenched fists loosened. He took one last look at the immortal valley and left with loneliness. Not long after, he stepped into the headquarters of the immortal court. The immortal court was empty. Everyone had gone to battle. Wu Yi, Baiqiu, Jiyu, Sushu, Shuiyi, Ruoxian, Violet Fairy, Yen Yer, and the others had all gone to battle. Even the old divine mathematician had rushed out of the 10 heavens. Not long after, he stepped into the immortal court's immortal emperor pagoda. That was a place that only he could enter. He sat down cross-legged in the pagoda, and gradually closed his eyes. It had been less than a month, but to him, it felt like countless years had passed. 1. Outside his body, strands of 9-colored holy light appeared naturally. It was powerful and thick, as if it encompassed everything. Outside the 10 heavens' ancient star, every corner of the primordial universe was filled with endless battles. The overall battle strength of the heavenly court was extremely strong, and there were as many experts as there were clouds in the sky. Even though the Hongming universe had experts like Wu Yi and the primogenitor of the immortal spirit race, who were many times stronger than the heavenly court's strongest experts in the Hongming universe, the heavenly court still had the absolute upper hand in the battle. After all, although Wu Yi and the primordial immortal ancestor were terrifying, the old hoodlum, the martial ancestor, the old Taoist, and Feng Xingtianzuan were all extraordinary, they couldn't take care of the entire primordial universe. Apart from these extreme experts, the primordial universe couldn't compare to the celestial court at all. In a large-scale battle, the primordial universe's side was at an absolute disadvantage. If we can help. In the simple valley, on the peak of a short mountain, Qin Xian and an old drunkard stood together, looking at the primordial universe. An old drunkard's eyes were calm, but deep. Little one and little two are fighting. It's like we're fighting, an old drunkard said, looking at the 10 heavens ancient star from afar. I want to see this battle to the end. Qin Xian nodded and looked at the 10 heavens ancient star with pity in her eyes. At the same time, there was a faint glimmer in her eyes. Eternal Celestial Emperor. I didn't expect little 10 to be that person's son, she said softly. She paused and looked at an old drunkard. Speaking of which, in the 9th dimension, one of you is the king and the other is the emperor. I wonder what the outcome of the battle will be. She looked at an old drunkard curiously. An old drunkard's eyes were calm as if he had seen through everything in the world. I can't win against him, and he can't win against me. Qin Xian chuckled then sighed. Those people shouldn't have opened that door. That is a holy land, but also a land of calamity. What will happen in the end? There was a hint of heaviness in her eyes. An old drunkard's gentle eyes became a little deep. His gaze was still on the 10 heavens ancient star, and it gradually became deeper. 10 heavens ancient star, immortal court, inside the immortal emperor pagoda, holy light intertwined. Lin Tian sat cross-legged in the immortal emperor pagoda, surrounded by 9-colored holy light and the light of reincarnation. As time passed, after a few days, the reincarnation aura outside his body was concealed, and it turned into the fluctuation of fate energy. His essence, qi, and spirit gradually became more stable. His cultivation base and Tao foundation became more stable. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. 1 month later, on this day, the holy light outside his body was concealed, and he opened his eyes. After a month of seclusion in the immortal emperor pagoda, his cultivation base had completely stabilized at the early stage reincarnation transformation realm. He was even stronger than when he went through the tribulation. It was also on this day that he stood up from the immortal emperor pagoda and walked alone in the immortal court. Then, he stepped out of the 10 heavens ancient star, stepped out of the primordial universe, and walked in the vast world. 7 days later, an extremely grand and vast macro world appeared in front of him. It was as grand as the Luosha macro world. It was the macro world where the Yellow Spring clan established their clan. His footsteps did not stop, and he walked straight ahead. Soon, he arrived in front of the Yellow Spring macro world. Who is it? A cold voice rang out. There were naturally experts guarding the outside of the Yellow Spring's great world. At this moment, seeing that there were foreign races approaching, the experts guarding the outside of the Yellow Spring's great world all walked out. They were at the Heavenly Ascension stage and the Void Transformation stage. Lin Tian's footsteps did not change, and he walked forward slowly. As he walked forward, the world seemed to tremble, and the experts of the Yellow Spring clan who rushed out disintegrated one by one. At the same time, dense saint runes appeared outside the macro world, and a vast murderous aura filled the sky. However, the moment they appeared, they shattered into light spots and dissipated. They could not block the reincarnation aura that naturally intertwined around his body. He continued to move forward, and the world barrier automatically broke open a door. He stepped through and appeared in the Yellow Spring macro world. The Yellow Spring macro world was as vast and majestic as the Luosha macro world. After entering, he walked towards the center of the world. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the center of the world, and appeared outside the Yellow Spring Royal City. The Yellow Spring Royal City was as majestic as the Luosha macro world, but at this moment, it seemed a little quiet. You really dare to come? A cold voice sounded, and a figure appeared in the Yellow Spring Royal City. It was the Yellow Spring King of the Yellow Spring clan. Looking at Lin Tian, the Yellow Spring King's eyes were cold, and strands of runes intertwined around him, forming two world portals. In the next moment, the two world portals trembled. The 9 Netherclans Patriarch, the 9 Netherclans Patriarch, the Underworld Clans Patriarch, the Underworld Clans Patriarch, the Underworld Clans Patriarch, the Underworld Clans Patriarch, each stepped out of one of the world portals. Their eyes were deep and cold, and they immediately fell on Lin Tian. At the same time, the Yellow Spring Clan's experts gathered outside the Yellow Spring Royal City and formed seals at the same time. In an instant, the entire Yellow Spring Royal City was covered by boundless killing runes and saint runes, emitting a monstrous murderous aura. The dense murderous aura immediately locked onto Lin Tian. The Yellow Spring King took a step forward and said coldly, "To be able to kill the Luo Sha King and destroy the Luo Sha macro world, you little bug from back then have become something. However, do you think we wouldn't know after killing the Luo Sha King and destroying the Luo Sha macro world? Do you think we wouldn't expect you to come after us next? Do you think we wouldn't have made any preparations? Don't be too." The Yellow Spring King's words suddenly stopped, and he immediately trembled. The black hair in front of Lin Tian's forehead danced, and his reincarnation eye was already open. Strands of mysterious runes intertwined, and his eyes were filled with ruthlessness and hatred. "Arg!" The Yellow Spring King let out a shrill scream of horror. As his consciousness trembled, he saw his soul being pulled into a purgatory. Thousands of souls roared and pounced on him, tearing at his soul in a frenzy. The pain was unbearable. In the next moment, the scream disappeared, and the Yellow Spring King calmed down. The light of life in his eyes had completely disappeared. "King!" Outside the Yellow Spring Royal City, the Yellow Spring Clan experts who were controlling the Killing Formation and the Yellow Spring Macro World Origin Saint runes were shocked. They clearly did not see anything just now. In their field of vision, nothing happened, and Lin Tian did nothing. However, their king suddenly screamed, and the light of life in his eyes disappeared in the blink of an eye. Their king was dead. His flesh shell was still there, but his soul had disappeared, silently crushed. Damn it! The Yellow Spring Clan experts were extremely shocked and furious. Although they did not see Lin Tian do anything, they knew that their king's death was definitely Lin Tian's doing. In shock and anger, the Yellow Spring Clan experts immediately activated the boundless killing runes and the Yellow Spring Macro World Origin Saint runes to the limit, and pressed down on Lin Tian with the power of the boundless killing runes and the Yellow Spring Macro World Origin Saint runes. This was set up by the Yellow Spring King a few days ago, and it was under the joint control of the Yellow Spring Tribe experts. The killing power it could release was extremely terrifying. They were waiting for Lin Tian to appear and target Lin Tian. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, boundless killing power surged. The Yellow Spring Tribe experts joined forces to support the boundless killing formation and the Yellow Spring Macro World Origin Saint runes. The power was so terrifying that it seemed to be able to annihilate everything. Lin Tian stepped forward toward the Yellow Spring King's corpse. Boundless black lightning surged out and shrouded the surrounding space. With a sizzling sound, all the killing power that pressed down collapsed. At the same time, the Yellow Spring Tribe experts who were controlling the boundless killing formation and the Yellow Spring Macro World Origin Saint runes were instantly smashed into pieces. Their bodies and souls were all destroyed. At this moment, Lin Tian walked to the Yellow Spring King's corpse, cut off his head, and put it away. He wanted to bring this head back to the 10 Directions Heaven territory and bring it to the ruins as a memorial to all the people who had passed away in the small tribe. Chapter 2332. Clang! As he slashed out with the reincarnation light sword, the glaring reincarnation sword radiance tore the space apart. The 9th Underworld King and the Nether King trembled. They wanted to retreat, but the space around them had been completely frozen. They could not retreat at all. They could only watch as Lin Tian's Samsara lightsaber swept towards them. At this moment, a cold snort was heard. A glaring saint light fell and blocked the reincarnation sword radiance. 4 figures suddenly appeared. They were all in the true realm and had a terrifying aura around them. 9 Serenity's king and Underworld Heart King relaxed and bowed when they saw the 4 of them. Xianyin, Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai were 4 of the 7 reincarnation divine guards, and they were all extremely powerful. He has already entered the reincarnation realm. We are no match for him, 9 Serenity's king said. The 9th Underworld King said. His expression was very ugly, and his eyes were filled with deep shock. Lin Tian's current combat strength made him an Underworld Heart King tremble. King Huangquan, who was as powerful as them, was killed in an instant. They didn't even know what Lin Tian had done to the Nether King at that time. Since then, you have been affected by the reincarnation realm. You have improved very quickly. Among the 4 reincarnation divine guards, Xianyin's eyes fell on Lin Tian. He said coldly, You are from a lowly clan, but you dare to have the same power as that lord. The gazes of Xianyang, Xianlai and Xianbai also fell on Lin Tian. Their eyes were cold. Lin Tian looked at Xianyin, Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai, who had suddenly appeared. The hatred and violence in his eyes became even more intense. Back then, when he destroyed a small tribe, everyone in the tribe died. Reincarnation King, 9 Reincarnation Divine Guards, King Huangquan, Luo Sha King, 9 Serenity's King, and Underworld Heart King. He would never forget them even if he died 1,000,000 times. Boom! At this moment, he went berserk. The light of reincarnation overflowed into the sky, directly tearing apart the cracks of reincarnation and the reincarnation heavenly river. Boom! Boom! The unparalleled reincarnation chi instantly enveloped Xianyin and the others, causing the entire place to tremble. Xianyin snorted coldly. Divine light surged, directly holding up a tower of radiance. It was completely condensed from divine chains of order. At the same time, Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai attacked together. Each of them supported a powerful saint technique and blasted it toward Lin Tian. The 4 of them were all origin returning realm experts, and they were an entire realm higher than Lin Tian. At this moment, when they attacked together and used their origin returning realm cultivation to activate their secret arts, their killing power was naturally terrifying to the extreme and seemed to be able to suppress everything. In the blink of an eye, their secret arts collided with Lin Tian's reincarnation crack and reincarnation heavenly river, erupting with destructive light that filled the sky. It caused the Huangquan imperial city to shatter in a single moment. It was unable to endure such a powerful clash of saint might. Terrifying cracks appeared in the sky as well. The 9 Underworld's King and the Nether King, the 2 mid-reincarnation transformation realm experts, could only watch from the side. They were completely unable to interfere in a clash of this level. Damned bug! The Nether King gritted his teeth. In the past, he was a worthless ant in their eyes, but now, he had completely surpassed them. Compared to the current Lin Tian, they seemed to be nothing. This feeling made them feel sullen, unwilling, and furious. Boom! The saint might collided. The secret arts of Xianyin, Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai collided with Lin Tian's reincarnation crack and reincarnation heavenly river. The continuous collision between the 2 sides caused even more dazzling destructive light to appear. The surroundings were completely drowned by the destructive light produced by the collision. Anyone below the secret arts would instantly suffer. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian took a step forward. He walked in the surging destructive light, and all the destructive light passed through his body. It was as if his body was just a projection at this moment. It did not hurt him at all. Such a scene caused Xianyin, Xianyang, and the other 2 to be shocked. The great art that the 4 of them conjured together collided with the reincarnation crack and reincarnation heavenly river. The destructive power in the middle was extremely terrifying. However, Lin Tian was able to walk in it as if he was walking on flat ground. The terrifying destructive power did not hurt Lin Tian at all. It passed through Lin Tian's body as if he was passing through air. Lin Tian's footsteps did not change. In the instant that the 4 of them were shocked, he passed through the destructive holy light and appeared in front of Xianyin, Xian Yang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai. His eyes had changed. There were 9 black moons intertwining in his left and right eyes. It was mysterious and terrifying. The Eye of Destiny. His cultivation had reached the rebirth realm, and he had secluded himself in the immortal Emperor's pagoda for a month. He had comprehended the Eye of Destiny more thoroughly. With this pair of eyes, he could turn himself into nothingness. As long as it was not a power that could kill him instantly, he could pass through it as if he was walking on flat ground. In other words, he could make the destructive power pass through his body as if it was nothing. The Eye of Destiny controlled the fate of heaven and earth. The fate of heaven and earth was the most illusory. This was one of the powers of fate. He closed his reincarnation eye and opened the Eye of Destiny. With the power of the Eye of Destiny, he passed through the destructive light in the sky and appeared in front of Xian Yin, Xian Yang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai. The Eye of Destiny trembled slightly and immediately formed a huge vortex of fate. 1. The invisible power of fate condensed into a vortex of fate. It was extremely vast, and it sucked Xian Yin and the other 3 into it. Puff! 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 Immediately, blood splattered everywhere as the 4 powerful True Realm warriors exploded into pieces at the first moment. The vortex of fate continued to tremble. It enveloped the broken bodies and souls of the 4 and crushed them over and over again. My lord! Not far away, the 9 Serenities King and the Underworld King both turned pale. Xian Yin, Xian Yang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai were all Reincarnation King's divine guards. They were all in the True Realm. But now, their physical bodies were crushed by Lin Tian in one move. At that moment, as they spoke, Lin Tian's gaze immediately turned toward them. You! Meeting Lin Tian's gaze, the 2 powerful ancient kings immediately trembled. They couldn't help but take a step back. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with ruthlessness and murderous intent. The Eye of Destiny trembled slightly. In an instant, he appeared in front of the 9 Serenities King and the Underworld King. This wasn't the maximum speed. It was the second ability of the Eye of Destiny, teleportation. Within a certain distance, as far as his eyes could see, he could instantly teleport to any place within that distance. Clang! He raised his hand. Boundless fate condensed into the Holy Sword of Destiny and slashed at the 2. The 9 Serenities King and the Underworld King were shocked. They wanted to retreat and dodge. But at this moment, under the strong power of fate, they couldn't even move. They couldn't retreat or dodge at all. They couldn't help but shout. Stop! Pft! Pft! The sacred sword of destiny slashed down, bringing with it 2 glaring mists of blood. The 9th Underworld King and the Underworld King exploded at the same time. Their souls were also shattered, leaving behind only 2 blood-stained heads. Their eyes were still wide open, still filled with shock and fear. Lin Tian raised his hand. He grabbed the 2 heads and put them away. Just like the Lu Sha King's head and the Underworld King's head, he wanted to bring these people's heads back. He wanted to use their heads as a sacrifice to the old clan leader and the others in heaven. Boom! Billowing saintly aura surged into the sky. At this moment, Xian Yin, Xian Yang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai used their majestic soul energy to shatter the fate vortex and rushed out. After charging out of the great providence vortex and looking at Lin Tian again, the 4 people's eyes turned cold. At the same time, they sensed that the 9 Serenities King and the Underworld King's auras had disappeared. There was still a remnant of their blood in the air. Their eyes became even colder. You ant! One of them said coldly. Their 4 divine guards had appeared here, but they were injured by Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. Their subordinates, the 9 Serenities King and the Underworld King, had also been killed by Lin Tian here after the Underworld King. Staring at Lin Tian, with a boom, an even more terrifying saintly aura swept out from their bodies. It was extremely terrifying. The power of destruction surged. At this moment, the 4 of them supported the supernatural powers of order at the same time. At the same time, they locked onto Lin Tian. A hurricane swept up here, blowing the black hair in front of Lin Tian's forehead. Looking at the 4 divine guards, Lin Tian directly stepped forward. His eye of destiny trembled slightly, interweaving a sky full of fate. In the next moment, his eye of destiny closed. The 9 black moons disappeared, turning into dense reincarnation patterns. The eye of reincarnation. Patches of reincarnation cracks appeared, and a reincarnation river was also pulled open, moving majestically. In an instant, 2 different powers, 2 powers that surpassed the power of order, pressed down on the 4 of them together. In the blink of an eye, they collided with the supernatural powers of order that the 4 of them had used, annihilating everything in an instant. In the next moment, the 4 reincarnation divine guards were forced to retreat at the same time. Clang! The ear-piercing sound of swords rang out. Lin Tian stared at the 4 of them. The reincarnation lightsaber condensed in his hand, and he swung it away. In an instant, reincarnation light filled the sky. They were all condensed from reincarnation light, enveloping the 4 of them at the same time. In the face of the reincarnation light, the 4 of them quickly dodged and met it with supernatural powers of order, blocking all of it. However, it was also at this moment that Lin Tian arrived before him once more. The void rumbled, and he once again closed in on the 4 of them. Lin Tian's eyes were full of viciousness, and he directly held up the reincarnation portrait. The completed reincarnation portrait was interwoven with dense reincarnation patterns, exuding a vast, sacred, and majestic aura. It was like a saint portrait of the end of the world, completely enveloping the 4 of them immediately. The 4 of them immediately changed their expressions. As the completed reincarnation portrait pressed down, they all felt the threat of death. Damn it! One of them was furious. The insect that was once unremarkable in their eyes now had a cultivation realm lower than theirs by an entire realm. However, when the 4 of them worked together, they were completely suppressed. At this moment, they actually felt the threat of death. This was beyond their expectations. As the reincarnation portrait continued to press down, the sense of death gradually became stronger, causing the 4 of them to feel a chill down their backs. Sacrifice the formation! Xian Lai shouted loudly. Chapter 23:33. As Xian Lai opened his mouth and yelled, "Sacrifice the formation!" a small flag flew out of his body. The flag was filled with ancient saintly inscriptions. As soon as it appeared, it grew dozens of times taller, interweaving with endless saintly power. Because of the appearance of these banners, the great world trembled violently. The completed reincarnation diagram also shook slightly. Almost at the same time, inch-size flags flew out of Xian Yin, Xian Yang, and Xian Bai's bodies. They were almost identical to Xian Lai's flag. They also grew dozens of times taller as soon as they appeared. Then their flags and Xian Lai's flag shook at the same time, resonating with each other and connecting together. They immediately sent the completed reincarnation diagram flying. They interweaved into a special formation, trapping Lin Tian inside. Buzz! The 4 flags formed a formation, sealing the sky and trapping the earth. Instantly, vast saintly might appeared and pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian's black hair danced in front of his forehead. His Rinnegan shook slightly and directly mobilized the boundless reincarnation light. Reincarnation cracks also appeared, facing the saintly might of the 4 people. The 2 collided in the blink of an eye, erupting with blinding light that almost covered everything. Whoosh! With a soft sound, the 4 flags shone, shattering the boundless reincarnation light and reincarnation cracks. The saintly might fell directly on Lin Tian, surging to the extreme. This power was very terrifying and seemed to be able to destroy everything. Lin Tian's Rinnegan closed immediately. His eye of destiny opened, turning his body into nothingness. The saintly might of the 4 people pressed down on him directly passed through his body. His eye of destiny shook slightly. Boundless fate circled out immediately, forming a vortex of fate that swallowed the 4 people. The vortex of fate appeared next to the 4 people. It was a power that far surpassed order. It destroyed everything in its way and had a terrifying aura. Humph! Among the four, Xianyin snorted, his eyes cold. The other three were the same. They didn't care at all about the vortex of fate that Lin Tian had mobilized. As the four flags shook, even more shocking saintly light burst out. The aura of reincarnation interwove within, shattering the vortex of fate. What do you think these flags are? This is the saint weapon that the Lord bestowed upon us, and it contains the saint power of samsara left behind by the Lord. They can fight on their own, but they can also form a killing formation that can suppress everything, Xianyin said coldly. It seems like the ability of the Eye of Destiny to turn one's body into nothingness and allow all attacks to pass through the nothingness to avoid harm. This ability is very good, very strong. However, there will always be a limit to the number of attacks you can take, Xianyang said. I wonder how long he can withstand our attacks, Xianbai said. Suppress. Xianlai's eyes were cold. The four of them mobilized the four banners together to form a great array. At that moment, an even more frightening power of slaughter surged out. It contained the power of reincarnation, and the resulting aura was much stronger than before. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the majestic power of slaughter pressed down on Lin Tian and landed on Lin Tian's body. Lin Tian used the Eye of Destiny to turn his body into nothingness. However, at that moment, he could not help but tremble violently. This was because the power of slaughter from the four banners was not only strong, but it also contained the power of reincarnation from the Reincarnation King. Although it was not enough to kill him in one blow, the frightening pressure had already greatly interfered with his Eye of Destiny's ability to turn his body into nothingness. It had almost reached the limit of what he could bear. Rumble! The killing power of the four banners grew stronger as time passed. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lin Tian used the Eye of Destiny to turn his body into nothingness. However, he was still blasted away by the power of the attack. His incorporeal body lost the ability to evade attacks at this moment. He closed his Eye of Destiny and opened his Eye of Reincarnation. He activated the power of reincarnation in the sky and interweaved the great reincarnation cracks in the sky towards the four of them. At the same time, with a clang, he took out the reincarnation sword. The countless divine inscriptions on the sword shone brightly, and immediately interweaved with the boundless power of slaughter. The reincarnation forging divine art was also activated. His fighting strength was instantly increased by 20 times. Clang! He activated the reincarnation sword with 20 times his fighting strength, and used the reincarnation eye to mobilize the power of reincarnation. His aura was majestic and frightening. The unparalleled killing power immediately collided with the killing power of the four Xianyin sex banners. Boom! 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 The netherworld macro world, which had already been torn apart, became even more dilapidated in the next moment. Cracks appeared in the void and on the surface of the ground, spreading out in all directions like a spider web. It was a terrifying scene. The space shook and was annihilated. With a bang, Lin Tian shook violently. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. At the same time, opposite him, Xianyin, Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai also trembled violently. Blood also flowed from their mouths. Good sword! Very powerful! Xianyin's eyes were cold. He stared at the reincarnation sword in Lin Tian's hand without blinking. Dazzling light burst out from his eyes. Then, he looked at Lin Tian. His eyes became even colder. You worm, after being tainted by reincarnation, you've become a completely different person. I can't believe you have such fighting strength. So what? You'll still die. Xianyang continued. His voice was even colder. As his words fell, even thicker holy light surged out from his body. His order divine ability was activated at that moment, and he used it to activate the flag that contained the power of reincarnation, causing the flag to instantly erupt with an even fiercer killing power that suppressed the surroundings. Xianlai said emotionlessly, Use all your strength. As soon as he finished speaking, he also activated his order superpowers. Like Xian Yang, he activated the banner's power even more. Xian Yin and Xian Bai acted together as well. The four of them worked together and used their strongest divine powers of order to activate the four flags that were connected to form a killing formation, causing this place to be drowned in an extremely terrifying aura at the first moment. Suppress, Xian Lai said coldly. The four banners shook, and an unparalleled killing power immediately surged toward Lin Tian. Lin Tian activated his Rinnegan and reincarnation sword with 20 times his fighting strength. All kinds of grand techniques appeared one by one and met the attack together. The two collided with each other. All kinds of strange lights intertwined, causing the void to roar and shatter constantly. The netherworld great world shook uncontrollably. The sky was collapsing, and the territory was sinking. It was like the end of the world. Bang! After a few breaths, Lin Tian was sent flying. His clothes were stained with blood, and many cracks appeared on his body. The banners activated by Xian Yin and the other three were too powerful. They contained the power of Reincarnation King. Although it was only a little, it was still extremely terrifying. It increased the killing power of the four by a lot. It was close to being truly invincible. However, although this kind of power was terrifying, he didn't care at all. The hatred in his eyes was extremely strong. His gaze became more ruthless, and the killing intent became more intense. His black hair danced wildly, and he held the reincarnation sword and attacked crazily. Die for me! He roared angrily. The scenes of the past replayed in his mind. The old patriarch who raised him, those uncles and aunts who loved him, the playmates who grew up with him, they all exploded into blood mist one by one. They kept flashing in his mind, making him crazy like a demon. With 20 times of combat power superimposed, the reincarnation sword emitted a monstrous saint light. The reincarnation eye interweaved with the boundless reincarnation power, and bombarded the four people. Xian Yin and the other three coldly snorted. Their eyes were filled with coldness. With the four banners, they continued to activate them with all their strength. The power of reincarnation left behind by Reincarnation King fused together with their respective Dao power and divine abilities of order. The power was terrifying to the extreme. Lin Tian attacked head-on. Under the situation where his cultivation base was lower than the four of them by an entire realm, he used the reincarnation sword to slash wildly. The reincarnation eye and the eye of destiny alternated one after another, and he also supported the perfect world together. Boom! In the fierce confrontation, 15 minutes passed in the blink of an eye. The netherworld great world continued to tremble, and became even more ruined. Under such an intense battle, even though the Xian Yin and the other three were able to control the four flags that contained the Reincarnation King's power and activate a small amount of reincarnation power, they were still injured by Lin Tian time and time again. From time to time, they would cough out blood from their mouths. At the same time, Lin Tian was also injured constantly. The reincarnation body was already full of cracks, and blood was flowing out continuously. If there's one more person and one more reincarnation flag, we can suppress him in the blink of an eye, Xian Yin said coldly. The 9 reincarnation divine guards each had one such flag. They were all bestowed by Reincarnation King. They could be used individually, or together to form a killing formation. The more flags gathered together, the stronger the killing power. Beside him, Xian Yang said, "Those 2 people have disappeared. Xian Tian and the other 2 are protecting this lord. They can't free themselves. The 4 of us are enough to suppress this insect. Otherwise, it will be a disgrace to the name of Reincarnation King's divine guards," Xian Lai said coldly. As Reincarnation King's divine guards, they were all extraordinary. Each of them was an existence that far surpassed Huang Quan King and the others. Moreover, they were in the origin returning realm, which was a full realm higher than Lin Tian. They also controlled the reincarnation flags that contained a small amount of reincarnation power given by Reincarnation King. With the 4 of them working together, how could they not suppress Lin Tian, who was in the Dao fusion realm? "That's right," Xian Bai also said. Immediately, the 4 of them attacked with all their strength. The 4 reincarnation flags became even more terrifying, and they bombarded Lin Tian mercilessly. Lin Tian's whole body was stained with blood. The black hair in front of his forehead fluttered in the wind. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and madness. Although he was injured again and again, he did not retreat at all. The reincarnation sword slashed at the 4 of them. The reincarnation eye and the eye of destiny were constantly alternating, bombarding the 4 of them violently. Boom! 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 In the blink of an eye, another half an hour had passed. After half an hour, Xian Yin, Xian Yang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai were all covered with cracks. Under Lin Tian's frenzied attacks, each of them had suffered more serious injuries. Lin Tian's injuries were more serious, but his eyes were crazier, as if he had truly turned into a great demon. You ant, that's enough! Die! Xian Yin shouted. He became a little irritable, and the cold light in his eyes became denser. The 4 reincarnation divine guards joined forces, and each of them had a cultivation realm higher than Lin Tian. Even with the 4 reincarnation flags, they were still unable to kill Lin Tian. Kill! Chapter 2334. The 4 reincarnation banners shone brightly and combined with each other. Xian Yin and the other 3 used their divine powers of order to activate the banners. The power they unleashed was terrifying. In the blink of an eye, they sealed off every inch of space in all directions. Boundless killing power and unparalleled divine light, mixed with the power of reincarnation, mercilessly pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian's clothes were stained with blood. His black hair danced in the wind. He held the reincarnation sword and charged forward. The boundless reincarnation light appeared immediately. In the blink of an eye, the 2 sides collided again. Instantly, the sky was filled with destructive light. Lin Tian attacked with the reincarnation sword and controlled the reincarnation light with his rinnegan. Sometimes, he would close his rinnegan and use his eye of destiny to mobilize the illusory power of fate. He fought fiercely with the 4 divine guards. His perfect world shook along with them. Boom! 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 An even more intense battle broke out in this place. The vast Yellow Spring Great World shook even more violently. The Yellow Spring Imperial City was completely reduced to rubble. The firmament continued to crack, the territory continued to sink, and crimson lava surged up. In the blink of an eye, the battle lasted for a full quarter of an hour. After a quarter of an hour, the destructive divine powers of order subsided a little. Xian Yin and the other 3 divine guards were all coughing up blood. On the other side, Lin Tian's body exploded. His blood dyed the void red. The 4 of us came together. We're a whole realm higher than you. We also have the reincarnation banners bestowed by the king. Can't we suppress you? Xian Yin said coldly as he looked at Lin Tian's shattered body. Xian Yang and the other 2 divine guards' eyes were cold. Xian Yang said, No need to say anything more. Give him the last. Suddenly, the world shook slightly, interrupting Xian Yang. Within a radius of thousands of feet, strands of reincarnation light appeared. Strands of fate power intertwined. The 2 appeared at the same time as if they had a consciousness. One of them surrounded Lin Tian's shattered body, while the other sealed off the surrounding space. Such a scene caused the pupils of the Xian Yin and the other 3 to narrow. Previously, when Lin Tian was fighting fiercely with them, he could only summon the light of reincarnation or the power of destiny. However, at this time, Lin Tian's physical body had been shattered by them. Before his physical body could be reconstructed, the light of reincarnation and the power of destiny appeared at the same time. Moreover, they could sense that the reincarnation light and the power of providence were much stronger than before. It was also at this moment that a portion of the reincarnation light and a portion of the power of providence surged into Lin Tian's shattered body. As the light flickered, Lin Tian's body reformed in the blink of an eye. The black hair in front of his forehead danced in the wind. His closed eyes slowly opened in the next moment. In his left eye, 9 mysterious black moons revolved around him. In his right eye, countless Tao patterns intertwined, It was vast and intimidating. The boundless power of providence and the vast power of reincarnation surged and danced around him. Left eye of fate. Right eye reincarnation. You! Xianyin and the others were shocked. One eye of fate, one eye of reincarnation, and the other eye of reincarnation. The four of them suddenly felt a chill. At this moment, Lin Tian, who had one eye of fate, one eye of reincarnation, made them feel extremely dangerous. Reincarnation and providence circled around his body. A wind blew in the Yellow Springs Great World, blowing the black hair in front of Lin Tian's forehead. He looked at Xianyin and the others. In his right eye, the reincarnation eye trembled slightly. In an instant, the reincarnation heavenly river behind the four of them. A giant beast emerged from it, as if it was real. It was completely formed by the light of reincarnation, and it pounced on the four of them. The giant beast's aura was terrifying. Although its body was huge, its speed was extremely fast. Even the four of them who were as strong as Xianyin could not avoid it. Suddenly, puff, 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 puff. Four mists of blood exploded. As the giant beast rushed past, Xianyin and the others were all crushed. Gurgle, gurgle. The sound of flesh wriggling resounded. Divine radiance flickered as the four of them condensed their physical bodies in the blink of an eye. Their faces were filled with fear. The giant reincarnation beast just now made their divine souls involuntarily shiver. It was too terrifying. At this moment, Lin Tian moved. The 9 black moons in his left eye, the eye of destiny, trembled slightly. In an instant, he appeared in front of Xianyin. Xianyin's expression changed. He was shocked by Lin Tian's teleportation. He quickly formed a seal and activated the reincarnation flag to attack Lin Tian. However, he wanted to attack now. How could he be faster than Lin Tian? Dong! Heaven and earth shook violently. Lin Tian swung his fist. The light of reincarnation surrounded the tip of his fist and landed on Xianyin's body in an instant. With a puff, blood splattered everywhere. Xianyin's body was immediately torn into pieces. Damn it! Xianyin roared. Being shattered by a punch, he naturally could not die immediately. He reformed his physical body in the blink of an eye and quickly escaped. However, Lin Tian was right in front of him. In the blink of an eye, he closed in again and directly blocked his escape route. Dong! With another loud sound, Lin Tian swung his fist for the second time. Unparalleled light of reincarnation covered the tip of his fist. The space around Xianyin was completely frozen. In an instant, Xianyin could not even move. He was completely suppressed by the light of reincarnation. Get lost! When Xianyang, Xianbai, and Xianlai saw this, they immediately took action together. They activated the reincarnation flag, causing the 4 reincarnation flags to explode with monstrous killing light. They intertwined with the reincarnation power that the reincarnation king had left in them to prevent Lin Tian from attacking Xianyin again. The monstrous killing light surged towards Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian's back was facing Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai. He turned a blind eye to the killing light. The eye of destiny turned his physical body into nothingness. The killing light passed through his body and landed on Xianyin's body together with his reincarnation fist. Puff! Blood splattered. The powerful Xianyin's body, except for his head, was smashed into pieces once again. Lin Tian raised his hand and grabbed Xianyin's head. His left and right eyes moved at the same time. The reincarnation light and fate power appeared together, drowning the rest of Xianyin's body and spiritual soul. They were crushed over and over again. Damn it! Give me! Ah! Xianyin roared angrily. He struggled to break through the reincarnation light and fate power that filled the sky. The next moment, he screamed in pain. Then, the scream disappeared in an instant. Except for the head that Lin Tian was holding, the rest of his body was gone. He had disappeared just like that. Xianyin! How could this be? Xianyang, Xianlai, and Xianbai were shocked. Xianyin had been killed. You! The 3 of them looked at Lin Tian again. When their gazes fell on Lin Tian's eyes, they could not help but tremble. Lin Tian looked at the three of them. He put away Xian Yin's head and walked slowly toward them. The light of samsara and the power of destiny intertwined around him at the same time. His eyes trembled slightly, and as he walked toward the three of them, great samsara cracks and vortexes of destiny appeared at the same time, sealing all the space around the three of them. The samsara power and the power of destiny pressed down on the three of them at the same time. Originally, he could only use one of the reincarnation eyes and fate eyes at the same time. If he wanted to use the reincarnation eyes, he had to close the fate eyes, and if he wanted to use the fate eyes, he had to close the reincarnation eyes. But now, in the fierce battle with the four of them, under the crazy desire to kill and hatred, he made a breakthrough and completed a new transformation. The reincarnation eyes and fate eyes merged. His left eye and right eye could use the reincarnation eyes at the same time. With this transformation, his Rinnegan and Eye of Destiny had become even more powerful, and his combat strength had increased tremendously. Buzz! Boundless reincarnation light and fate power pressed down from every corner, sealing Xian Yang and the other two. Their auras were terrifying. Xian Yang and the other two were furious. They worked together to support the four reincarnation flags and unleash their murderous aura once again. They blocked the reincarnation light and fate power that pressed down on them as they attacked Lin Tian. Their murderous aura was terrifying. Lin Tian's footsteps did not change at all. He walked forward step by step. The fate eyes turned his body into nothingness. The murderous aura that the three of them pressed down on him directly passed through his body, destroying the space behind him. At this moment, he appeared before the three of them. With a thought, all the reincarnation cracks, fate vortexes, reincarnation light and fate power immediately became stronger. They broke through all of Xian Yang and the other two's defenses and landed on them. Spurt! 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 Bloody mist immediately splattered. The three of them could not block it at all. Half of their bodies were crushed. This made the three of them roar furiously. They activated the four reincarnation flags and unleashed holy light to help them break free. Clang! The clanging of swords rang out at this moment. Lin Tian used the weapon control technique and controlled the reincarnation sword with his mind. He slashed out fiercely and created four reincarnation sword glows. They landed on the four reincarnation flags. At the same time, the vast reincarnation light and fate power underwent a qualitative change. They pressed down on the four reincarnation flags together with the four reincarnation sword glows. Immediately, four crisp cracking sounds rang out. The vast reincarnation light and fate power pressed down together with the reincarnation sword and crushed the four reincarnation flags. You! Xian Yang, Xian Lai and Xian Bai's expressions changed again. They trembled violently. The reincarnation flags that the reincarnation king had given them were destroyed just like that. Lin Tian's footsteps did not change at all. 9 black moons appeared in his left eye of destiny, mysterious and unfathomable. Countless Tao patterns appeared in his right eye of reincarnation. They were vast and majestic. He arrived before the three of them in the blink of an eye. He pressed down with the reincarnation cracks, fate vortexes, reincarnation light and fate power. Spurt! 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 The blood mist exploded again. He destroyed the three of their bodies below the head and grabbed their heads. His eyes shook slightly again. The reincarnation light and fate power merged together, forming a huge abyss of reincarnation light and fate power. The reincarnation light and fate power intertwined in the abyss. A terrifying tearing force came from it and swept over everything. It was difficult for everything to escape. Xian Yang, Xian Lai and Xian Bai were terrified. Their divine souls burst out with towering soul radiance as they tried to escape. However, the abyss formed by the reincarnation light and fate power was too terrifying. They could not escape at all. Ah! No! In the next moment, their divine souls and broken bodies were sucked into the abyss at the same time. There were screams, but they quickly quieted down. The three of them disappeared together. For a moment, this place became much quieter. Only the rolling lava was still rushing up from the ground. The entire Yellow Springs world was filled with cracks. It was as though it had become the most fragile ceramic that would shatter at any moment. Lin Tian stood on the broken Yellow Springs void. The 9 black moons in his left eye disappeared, and the reincarnation Tao pattern in his right eye dispersed. He carried a few blood-stained heads and stepped out of the Yellow Springs royal city that had turned into ruins. He left the Yellow Springs world. Chapter 2335. Stepping out of the Yellow Spring world and carrying the heads of King of Netherworld and others, Lin Tian was a little numb and walked towards the distance. The saint runes of order circled around his body at the first moment. Since he stepped into the Yellow Spring world, all the killing forces that attacked him were displayed at the same time. The power of Xianyin, Xianyang, and others, as well as the power of Samsara left by King of Samsara and the Samsara flag was doubled at this moment, turning into a destructive torrent that fell behind him. Absolute counterattack. Boom! With a loud roar, the Yellow Spring world was submerged by the destructive torrent in an instant and directly exploded. Lin Tian left and went further and further away from the Yellow Spring world. He stepped into the Hongmeng universe and entered the small spiritual domain of the 10 Directions ancient star. In the middle of the small spiritual domain, there were ruins, and the head of Rakshasa King was placed in front of the ruins. He came here, put down the heads of King of Netherworld and others, and also put them in front of the ruins, and knelt down in front of the ruins. Kneeling in front of the ruins, he looked at the ruins in front of him in a daze. Whoosh! Inside the small spiritual domain, there was a wind blowing from a distance. Leaves were mixed in it, and there were also traces of sand and dust rolling inside. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. 7 days later, on this day, he stood up, left the small spiritual domain, and returned to the main celestial court of this heaven domain. It was very quiet in the main celestial court, and no one could be seen. Everyone had gone to fight and had not returned. He walked in the celestial court, gradually stopped, and looked out in all directions. The next moment, his figure disappeared silently in the celestial court. In the unknown vast world. Boom! In the vast world, immortal mountains and treasures were everywhere, and the air was intertwined with a frightening aura of destruction and blood. Wu Yi, Ruoxian, Baiqiu, and Ji Yu were walking together. They had left the celestial court and had been fighting for a long time. Wherever they went, the heavenly soldiers and generals of the celestial court could not resist at all. Wherever they went, the heavenly soldiers and generals of the celestial court who encountered them were all obliterated. Because this group of people was really too strong, and all of them were above the heaven-connecting realm. They were either powerful king physique or had amazing aptitude, and all of them had at least grasped the third order. Their combat strength was far from ordinary experts of the same level. Especially Ruoxian, who had inherited the powerful bloodline of Lin Tian and Wu Yi. Once the law of time, it swept everything, even more terrifying than order. Order. Although her cultivation was only at the 6th heaven-connecting realm, ordinary experts of early void transformation realm experts, when faced with the law of time law released by heaven, who was heaven. Wu Yi was the most powerful and had the most heaven-defying aptitude. His cultivation had reached the peak of the soul transformation realm, and he had the order divine ability and the space divine law. He had both the void physique and the holy light physique, and there was always a lot of Lin Tian's reincarnation origin in his body. He could barely be considered half a reincarnation body. Wherever his gaze passed, there was nothing that could not be destroyed. This group of people walked together, and every place they passed by, they would quickly sweep away all the heavenly soldiers and generals there. Boom! This world was similar to the void realm. It was very vast. Not long after the group of people stepped into this world, all kinds of divine light and killing light crisscrossed. One after another, the heavenly soldiers and generals in their field of vision were killed one after another. Go! Run! An extremely frightened voice sounded. The heavenly soldiers and generals were terrified. Facing such a group of people, how could they resist? Immediately, the group of heavenly soldiers and generals quickly fled towards this place. Don't even think about escaping! Die, all of you! Ruo Xian's eyes were filled with anger. These days, she had been thinking about her father. There was anger and hatred in her eyes. She directly interweaved the long river of time, and the ripples of time were mighty and terrifying. The heavenly soldiers and generals were even more frightened, and they fled even faster into the distance. However, at this moment, the heavenly soldiers and generals who were fleeing at top speed were all stunned. One after another, they turned into ashes. Lin Tian stepped into this place and followed the auras of Wu Yi and the others. He descended from the sky. The group was slightly stunned. Ruo Xian immediately rushed over and hugged Lin Tian tightly. Father! Where have you been? Your daughter was so worried. I'm fine, Lin Tian said softly as he gently stroked Ruo Xian's hair. These days he had killed the Devil King and the others, but the hatred in his heart had not dissipated. He still felt very uncomfortable. Now that he had followed the auras of Wu Yi and the others, he felt better when he saw his daughter hugging him. Lin! Big brother! Wu Yi, Jiyu, and the others stepped forward one after another. They looked at Lin Tian and spoke one after another. Their eyes were filled with deep concern. Lin Tian looked at them. After walking the path of hatred for so long, looking at them only made him feel better. Big brother! Lin Shi looked at Lin Tian and said these two words. Her eyes were slightly evasive. She knew everything about Lin Tian. In this life, Lin Tian was reborn from reincarnation. It turned out that he was not related to her by blood. It turned out that she was not Lin Tian's biological sister. Lin Tian stepped forward and hugged Lin Shi. Xiao Shi is big brother's sister. No matter what, this will not change. At this moment, he naturally knew what Lin Shi was thinking. Lin Shi trembled slightly and hugged Lin Tian tightly. Tears appeared in her eyes. Yes. After a while, Lin Tian let go of Lin Shi and looked at Jiyu and the others, then at Wu Yi. Wu Yi's aura became stronger. Her gaze fell on him. It's good that you're fine. These 4 simple words were very gentle, but the concern in them was very strong. Yes. Lin Tian nodded. Looking at Wu Yi, he wanted to smile at her. But now, how could he smile? Wu Yi stepped forward and gently held his hand. Take it slow. She was very strong, very smart, and very considerate. Naturally, she knew what Lin Tian was thinking now. She also knew what kind of situation Lin Tian was in now. He had not taken revenge and was drowned in hatred. In such a situation, how could the current Lin Tian smile like in the past? Feeling Wu Yi's hand holding his, Lin Tian held her hand tightly. It could bring him a lot of warmth. Father, where did you go before? Ruo Xian asked at this time. I went to do something, Lin Tian said softly. He did not specifically say what he did. Ruo Xian did not ask. She said, What happened after that, father? Now will you come with us? She did not know if her father was going to do something else again. Yes, together. Lin Tian Andao. Reincarnation King, Reincarnation 9 Divine Guards, Luo Sha King, Yellow Spring King, 9 Underworld King, and Underworld King. Among these 10 people, his teacher killed 2 of them. He himself killed 8 of them. Now there were 4 left. They were Reincarnation King, Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Mie. Previously, during the battle with Xian Yin, Xian Yang, and the others, he had silently found out the strength of Reincarnation King and the others. Xian Di and Xian Mie were in the middle of True Origin Realm, Xian Tian was at the end of True Origin Realm, and Reincarnation King was at the end of Xian Tian Realm. As for their traces, he naturally knew. Reincarnation King was absorbing Xianhuan universe, absorbing the entire universe. Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Mie were guarding each other. With his current strength, it was not difficult to kill Xian Di and Xian Mie. However, it was impossible to kill Xian Tian, the strongest divine guard of Reincarnation King. Moreover, the most important thing was that Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xianmia were guarding Reincarnation King. No matter who he went to, he would have to face the four of them at the same time. The current him could not deal with all four of them at the same time. Especially Reincarnation King, who was at the end of Xiantian realm. He had refined several universes. The reincarnation force that he controlled was much stronger than the current him. The current him was not a match for Reincarnation King. The gap between him and Reincarnation King was too big. He wanted to take revenge. The hatred in his heart was boiling all the time. However, this boiling hatred was suppressed by him now. Because if he went to look for Reincarnation King and the others now, there was only a path to death. He must succeed in his revenge. He must not die now. At the same time, for Wu Yi and the others, for his daughter, he must not die. For them, he must live. At this time, he had returned to the primordial universe and came here. He was prepared to expel the celestial court from this universe with Wu Yi and the others. The celestial court was wantonly massacring in the primordial universe. Countless living beings were suffering. Whether it was because of his hatred for the celestial court or because he wanted to protect this universe and the countless living beings in this universe, he must expel the celestial court from this universe. And together! Ruoxian was a little excited when she heard that her father was going to fight with them temporarily. She wanted to be by her father's side all the time. Expel the celestial court from our universe! She clenched her fists as she said this. Her eyes were filled with deep hatred for the celestial court. Lin Tian stroked Ruoxian's hair. He knew that Ruoxian was feeling heartache for him. She hated the celestial court for him. He looked at the great world in the distance. This great world was comparable to the celestial world of nothingness. Now, there were many celestial soldiers and celestial generals fighting inside. The countless living beings in this great world were all suffering. His eyes gradually changed. 9 black moons intertwined in his left eye while countless Tao runes appeared in his right eye. The Tao runes in his right eye moved slightly. Instantly, the reincarnation heavenly river appeared. Giant beasts appeared one after another. Some had a horn, some had 2 wings, and some had 3 eyes. The aura they emitted was incomparably terrifying. There were about 50,000 of them. This scene shocked everyone. They could clearly feel the terror of the reincarnation heavenly river. They could also feel the terror of the giant beasts that stepped out of the reincarnation heavenly river. It was as if they could crush everything with a slight movement. Then, the group of people's gazes landed on Lin Tian. When they saw Lin Tian's eyes, they couldn't help but be shocked. Even Wu Yi was no exception. Now, Lin Tian's eyes were not symmetrical. They were completely different. At the same time, because Lin Tian didn't hide anything from them, they could also feel Lin Tian's cultivation at this moment. The shock in their eyes couldn't help but become more intense. Father, you've already reached the Samsara realm? Ruoxian's eyes were filled with shock. Then, her gaze unblinkingly landed on Lin Tian's right eye. Also, Father, your right eye, could it be? She, her mother, a few ladies, and 2 aunts had all seen her father's left eye before. They knew that it was the eye of destiny. However, this was the first time she saw her father's right eye. However, although this was the first time she saw it, she could vaguely guess something. She couldn't help but reveal an even more shocked expression. Chapter 2336. Lin Tian naturally knew that Ruoxian had already guessed it, so he didn't try to hide it. He nodded and said, Rinnegan. It really is that pair of divine eyes. Ruoxian was shocked. Jiyu, Baiqiu, and the others were naturally shocked as well. Even Wu Yi was no exception. There was a faint light in his eyes. The 3 legendary divine eyes were the Rinnegan, the Eye of Destiny, and the Eye of Space-Time. Lin Tian had mastered the Eye of Destiny, and now he had even mastered the Rinnegan. It should be known that among the 3 divine eyes, the Rinnegan had the title of strongest. At this time, they looked at Lin Tian and were shocked by Lin Tian's cultivation, Lin Tian's Rinnegan, and looked at Lin Tian's two different and asymmetrical eyes. They gave Lin Tian an inexplicable sense of mystery and majesty. Ruo Xian's eyes were very bright. One eye of destiny, the other eye of reincarnation. Daddy, you look so handsome right now! Lin Tian stroked Ruo Xian's hair. His rinnegan shook slightly, and he ordered the tens of thousands of great reincarnation beasts that he had summoned. Go! As soon as he finished speaking, the tens of thousands of great reincarnation beasts roared in unison and rushed in different directions. They rushed to every corner of this world, and in the blink of an eye, they had crossed a great distance. These great reincarnation beasts were summoned by his rinnegan. It was an ability of his rinnegan. With this ability, the battle prowess of the great reincarnation beasts he summoned would decrease as the number of great reincarnation beasts he summoned increased. The more great reincarnation beasts he summoned, the weaker the battle prowess of each great reincarnation beast he summoned. The fewer great reincarnation beasts he summoned, the stronger the battle prowess of each great reincarnation beast he summoned. At the same time, on the other hand, his own cultivation base would directly affect the battle prowess of the giant beasts he summoned. With his current reincarnation transformation realm cultivation base, every single one of the tens of thousands of reincarnation beasts that he summoned had the strength of a peak reincarnation soul realm expert. In the current Hongming universe, no one in the celestial court was a match for such a battle prowess. It was more than enough to wipe out all the celestial court's celestial soldiers and celestial generals in this world. Whoosh! 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 Tens of thousands of great beasts of samsara quickly rushed to various regions of this world and began to launch devastating attacks on the celestial courts, celestial generals, and celestial soldiers. Summoned by Lin Tian with his eye of reincarnation, each of these giant beasts was comparable to a peak soul refining realm expert. Under the attacks of these reincarnation giant beasts, not a single celestial soldier or celestial general in this world could block a single attack. Blood-curdling screams continued to reverberate in this world. However, the targets of the screams had changed. This was because the previous screams had come from the Hongming universe's living beings in this world. Now, the screams were coming from the celestial courts, celestial soldiers, and celestial generals. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals were terrified. This is... The cultivators of the Hongming universe in this world were originally defending against the celestial courts, celestial soldiers, and celestial generals. When they saw the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara, they were all shocked. They thought that the celestial court's new battle prowess had increased. However, they did not expect the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara to attack the celestial courts, celestial soldiers, and celestial generals from the Hongming universe. Ah! Blood-curdling screams reverberated as the celestial soldiers and celestial generals were killed one after another. Those who were still alive facing the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara were terrified and began to flee. However, the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara were too powerful. The strongest celestial general in this world was only at the Great Void Realm. How could he escape? No! Under the attack of the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals continued to scream in terror. The cultivators of the Hongming universe who saw this scene were first stunned. Then, when they were sure that the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara would not attack them and that they were only attacking the celestial courts, celestial soldiers, and celestial generals, they became agitated. Kill! Kill them all! Kill! The cultivators of the Hongming universe clenched their fists. Their eyes were filled with hatred as they shouted at the reincarnation giant beasts. This day was undoubtedly a destructive day for the celestial soldiers and celestial generals in this world. Only a quarter of an hour had passed, but all the celestial soldiers and celestial generals in this world had been wiped out. Lin Tian naturally sensed this. He was the one who had summoned the reincarnation giant beasts of samsara. Their vision was equivalent to his vision. Through them, he could judge the situation of the battle from afar and know everything that they saw. Let's go, he said to Wu Yi and Ruo Xian. The tens of thousands of reincarnation giant beasts of samsara that he had summoned earlier disappeared with a thought. Ruoxian held Lin Tian's hand and nodded vigorously. They had been staying in this place for a quarter of an hour. They had learned everything about the reincarnation giant beasts from Lin Tian, including what they had done. Daddy, you seem like a real god now. She looked at her father with reverence. In the eyes of the people, gods were omnipotent. However, there had never been a god in this world. There were only powerful people, powerful demons, and all kinds of powerful creatures. But now, she felt that her father was a god. Lin Tian didn't say anything. He gently rubbed Ruoxian's head and led Ruoxian, Wu Yi, and the others away quickly. Not long after, he appeared in another world with them. Once again, he summoned tens of thousands of reincarnation giant beasts with his Rinnegan. He ordered these giant beasts of samsara to attack the world they had entered and killed the celestial soldiers and celestial generals. For the celestial soldiers and celestial generals, this was undoubtedly a disaster. They were killed one after another. Soon, all the celestial soldiers and celestial generals in this world were wiped out. He took Ruoxian and Wu Yi to the next macro world and gradually summoned more giant beasts of samsara. Time passed little by little. He used his Rinnegan to summon tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of giant beasts of samsara to attack the celestial court. Wherever he went, all the celestial soldiers and celestial generals were wiped out in a moment. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Samsara? The legendary reincarnation body, the master of the celestial court of this universe, he controls samsara? This, as he killed one celestial soldier and celestial general after another, some soul reincarnation realm experts of the celestial court saw him, and recognized his Rinnegan. Then, the news gradually spread to every corner of the primordial universe, causing the celestial soldiers and celestial generals to be horrified. Samsara was the most powerful force in this universe. Once it was mastered, it would be invincible. Some of the more powerful existences in the celestial court knew that the true master of the celestial court controlled samsara. He was so powerful that he could suppress everything. For a moment, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals in this universe couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. At the same time, the primogenitor of the immortal spirit race, Shinki, Mu Xingshu, Old Hoodlum, Primitive Emperor, Baiziki, Wishing Crocodile, Little Taichu, White Tiger, Ling Yun, Yitong, Little Fox, and the others naturally heard the news and couldn't help but be shocked. The reincarnation physique, that young man has really mastered samsara? That guy, he has mastered samsara? Master! Everyone was fighting in different locations. However, when they heard the news, they were all shocked. Little junior brother! Fengxing Tianzuan, Aojian Tianzuan, and the others naturally knew about this. They were all excited, and their eyes were filled with pity. As his senior brothers, they knew best that the little junior brother had reincarnated until now in order to take control of samsara and take revenge. Now that the little junior brother had achieved his goal of controlling samsara, as his senior brothers, they were happy for their little junior brother, but they also felt sorry for him. This was because they knew very well that their little junior brother had suffered too much to reach this point. At the same time, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court who were fighting in various parts of the universe also knew about this. His Majesty the Celestial Emperor! After hearing this news, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals were all excited. His Majesty the Celestial Emperor is fighting with us. Brothers, kill! Kill these bastards! A powerful celestial general roared. Kill! 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 The celestial soldiers and celestial generals responded in unison. Their battle auras surged as they crazily attacked the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court. Their battle auras spurred the other large clans and forces in the primordial universe, causing their battle auras to surge as well. Follow the generals of the celestial court, kill! Kill these invaders! Kill! The celestial generals of the primordial universe roared as their battle auras soared into the sky. The war in this universe had been going on for a year. The primordial universe had suffered heavy losses and countless living beings had suffered. However, because of Lin Tian's actions and the news of Lin Tian's control of samsara had spread, the primordial universe's battle auras surged. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court were fearful of Lin Tian's samsara, causing their battle auras to plummet. Although their strength was far superior to the celestial generals of the primordial universe, they gradually began to show signs of losing in the battle. After that, as Lin Tian continued to attack and pass through many great worlds, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court gradually witnessed Lin Tian's samsara eyes and Lin Tian's samsara divine ability. More celestial generals of the primordial universe witnessed it with their own eyes. Immediately, the battle auras of the celestial generals of the primordial universe became even stronger. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the celestial court gradually witnessed the terrifying power of Lin Tian's samsara beasts. Each of them became even more terrified. The battle auras of the celestial generals of the celestial court declined at an even faster rate. Finally, the Yellow Spring clan and the other ancient clans' battle camps were destroyed. The Dao Fusion Realm generals who led the battle were annihilated. Lin Tian, who controlled samsara, made his move and the celestial generals of the primordial universe's battle auras skyrocketed. The celestial generals of the primordial universe began to flee. Their hearts were filled with horror and fear as they quickly fled this universe. Chapter 2337. As Lin Tian made his move and the news of Lin Tian controlling samsara spread, the battle chi of the Hongming universe skyrocketed. The heavenly soldiers of the celestial court who had invaded the Hongming universe began to flee in fear. Naturally, the battle chi of the Hongming universe skyrocketed as they chased after the heavenly soldiers of the celestial court. This caused the heavenly soldiers of the celestial court to shed their helmets and armor. Just like that, time flashed by, and another 3 months passed. In these 3 months, large-scale transverse universe teleportation arrays were activated one after another. The heavenly court's heavenly soldiers who invaded the Grand Mist universe were all terrified and fled from the Grand Mist universe. "We won!" The experts of the Hongming universe shouted excitedly. "It's all thanks to the Celestial Emperor! The Celestial Court is the undisputed #1 in the Hongming universe! The Celestial Emperor's victory, the Celestial Court's victory, and the Hongming universe's victory!" Voices rang out from the experts of the Hongming universe one after another. In the past year, the strength of the Celestial Court was obvious to all the cultivators of the Hongming universe. Originally, many of them thought that they would be defeated in the end. However, the Hongming universe had won a great victory and forced the powerful Celestial Court to flee in panic. The cultivators of the Hongming universe knew that this was all because of Lin Tian who had controlled samsara. If Lin Tian hadn't taken action, the Hongming universe wouldn't have won. In an unknown great world, Lin Tian, Wu Yi, Ruoxian, and the others naturally knew that the Celestial Court had been defeated and fled. "Father, we won!" Ruoxian hugged Lin Tian's arm with excitement and joy. The biggest reason for their victory was because her father had taken action. It was because of her father's reincarnation deterrence. Lin Tian gently rubbed Ruoxian's head. The 9 black moons in his left eye dissipated and the samsara runes in his right eye disappeared. His eyes returned to normal. "Let's go back to the great world," he said to Ruoxian and Wu Yi. Wu Yi nodded. Ji Yu, Shui Yi, and the other girls nodded and followed Lin Tian out of the great world with Lin Tianyi. In the great world, a group of cultivators of the Hongming universe not far away. They had witnessed Lin Tian's actions to protect this world. When they saw Lin Tian leaving with Wu Yi and the others, they saluted Lin's back. "Farewell, Celestial Emperor!" The reputation of the Immortal Court had spread throughout the entire primordial universe a long time ago. As the Lord of the Immortal Court, Lin Tian's name naturally spread throughout the primordial universe as well. Almost everyone in the primordial universe's cultivation world knew about Lin Tian. At this moment, all the cultivators present were filled with respect. If it weren't for Lin Tian, this great world would have been destroyed. If it weren't for Lin Tian, Hongmeng universe might have collapsed. The group of cultivators was grateful to Lin Tian from the bottom of their hearts. They revered Lin Tian because Lin Tian had brought them victory. Lin Tian left with Wu Yi and the others. He nodded at them with his back to them and left the great world in the blink of an eye. Soon, he brought Wu Yi and the others back to the Celestial Court in the great ancient star. Lord Celestial Emperor! Many immortal soldiers and generals of the Celestial Court had already returned. They stood outside the Celestial Court, waiting for Lin Tian's return. They knew that Lin Tianyi would return after the battle. They were waiting outside the main Celestial Court to welcome the return of their leader. Everyone got down on one knee and saluted Lin Tian outside the Celestial Court. Rise! Lin Tian now told them to do their own things. He led Wu Yi and Ruo Xian into the Celestial Court. Time passed slowly. Not long after he returned to the Celestial Court, Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, Yi Tong, Wishing Crocodile, White Tiger, and Little Tai Shu returned to the Celestial Court one by one. The Immortal Spirit Progenitor, Immortal Spirit Overlord, Shin Qi, and the others also arrived. Not long after, even the old hoodlum and martial progenitor found out about the main Celestial Court and entered the Celestial Court together. Lin Tian! Little Taichu landed in front of Lin Tian and grabbed Lin Tian's clothes. Its big eyes were full of concern. To the little fellow, Lin Tian was the person closest to it, even more so than its parents. After learning about Lin Tian's past, it had been fighting outside for more than a year, and its heart had always been very uncomfortable. Lin Tian hugged it. He knew how much the little guy cared about him. Amazing! Amazing! The Immortal Spirit Progenitor looked at Lin Tian. His eyes were full of emotions. Although you're only in the transformation realm, it's easy for you to suppress me. As expected of the disciple of the human king. Lin Tian was now in the transformation realm, while he was in the origin returning realm. His cultivation was much higher than Lin Tian's. However, he could feel how terrifying Lin Tian's aura was. Especially that faintly discernible reincarnation qi, it made his soul tremble. He was sure that the current Lin Tian's true battle strength was far from what he could compare to. The few of us old bones have been left far behind, said the old man. The old hoodlum sighed. Beside him, the Yuan Emperor nodded silently. The current Lin Tian was too strong. He was far from what they could compare to. Think about it. 2 or 3 years ago, what level was Lin Tian's cultivation? At that time, the gap between them was too big. But now, in just a few days, Lin Tian had surpassed them, far surpassed them. Lin Tian greeted the Immortal Spirit Progenitor, and the others. These people were his seniors, and they were all here for him. It was also at this time that Feng Shuntianzuan, Primal Chaos, Solar Celestial, Celestial Zonglong, and the others returned. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, ninth senior brother. Lin Tian immediately went up to them. Feng Shuntianzuan, Primal Chaos, and the others were not only his senior brothers, but also his elder brothers. In the past few years, his senior brothers had doted on him. When he wanted to learn the techniques they created, they taught him seriously and taught him everything without holding back. In those years, they had fought for him time and time again. Their reincarnations, although Taishang and the King of Chaos were deliberately against them, it was still because of him. Good. Feng Xingtianzuan looked at Lin Tian and patted Lin Tian's shoulder. His eyes were incomparably gentle. You have surpassed us, little junior brother. Very good. I am proud of you. Primal Chaos, Ao Jiantianzuan, and the others stepped forward. Now that they were all at the peak of the Great Void stage, they could feel that Lin Tian's current cultivation was at the transformation realm. Moreover, he had controlled fate and reincarnation at the same time. He was much stronger than them, and they were sincerely happy for Lin Tian. Good, good, good. As expected of our little junior brother. Very good, Primal Chaos said. Thank you, senior brother. Lin Tian now appeared to be extremely humble in front of these 9 people. On this day, many people came to the main immortal court of the 10 Directions heavenly domain. All the seniors, relatives, and old friends who knew Lin Tian had gathered in the main immortal court. They had come for the victory of the Hongming universe, and more importantly, for Lin Tian. Everyone was shocked by Lin Tian's current strength. His cultivation had reached the transformation realm, and he had controlled both the Eye of Destiny and the Eye of Reincarnation at the same time. This kind of strength was too shocking. The heavenly soldiers of the celestial court had been expelled from the Hongming universe. This was a day of victory, and it was a day worth celebrating. Apart from the celestial court, the other major forces held banquets to celebrate. However, the immortal court did not. Everyone who came to the immortal court knew about Lin Tian's current situation. How could they be in the mood to celebrate? On this day, the primal chaos, old hooligan, martial ancestor, Xinyu, Lingyun, Yang Qi, Bai Ziki, Wishing Crocodile, and the others had a lot to talk with Lin Tian. It was late at night, and the group gradually dispersed. Only Feng Xintianzuan and the others remained. Lin Tian followed them into the depths of the immortal court. The 10 of them had not walked together for a long time. Those people, who did you get rid of? Who is left? Feng Xintianzuan asked Lin Tian. Primal Kaith's heavenly sovereign, solar celestial sovereign, and the others also looked at Lin Tian. Lin Tian did not mention that he had killed Luo Sha King and the others. However, as his senior brothers, the 9 of them naturally knew their junior brother. Lin Tian was already at the Samsara realm, and had mastered the Samsara realm. His battle prowess had long surpassed many of those people. The 9 of them knew that Lin Tian must have found some of them before. Luo Sha King, Yellow Spring King, 9 Serenities King, Nether Heart King, Xianyin, Xianyang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai were all killed. Lin Tian would not hide anything from his 9 senior brothers. As he spoke, he clenched his fists, and his eyes flashed with hatred. Only Luanhui King, Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Mia are left. They are all living together. Hearing Lin Tian's words, Feng Xintianzuan, Primal Kaith's heavenly sovereign, solar celestial sovereign, and the others knew that Lin Tian should have killed a few of those people. However, when they heard Lin Tian's words, they could not help but be shocked. Before this, they thought that Lin Tianji had killed Luo Sha King, Yellow Spring King, 9 Serenities King, and Nether Heart King, the 4 Samsara realm existences. They did not expect that even Xianyin, Xianyang, Xian Lai, and Xian Bai, the 4 true realm divine guards of Luanhui King, were killed. However, the 9 of them quickly came back to their senses. Good! Good kill! Ao Jiantianzhen said in a low voice. Luanhui King's group of people had destroyed everything that their junior brother once had. Naturally, they were incomparably furious. At this time, when they heard that Lin Tian now had killed Luo Sha King, Yellow Spring King, and the others, they felt that their anger had been vented a lot. Feng Xintianzuan patted Lin Tian's shoulder, paused for a moment, and said, Luanhui King's group of 4 has always been together. Luanhui King's cultivation is very terrifying. Junior brother, you are still not his opponent for the time being. Don't be impulsive later. Raise your cultivation first before going to look for Luanhui King. Luanhui King was Lin Tian's biggest enemy. At that time, because Luanhui King led Luo Sha King and the others to look for something in this universe, they destroyed a small tribe and killed the old patriarch and the others. They knew that Lin Tian hated Luanhui King the most. They were more or less worried that Lin Tian would not be able to suppress the hatred in his heart, and rushed towards Luanhui King at this stage. I know, senior brother. I won't be as impulsive as before. Lin Tian clenched both of his hands tightly. There was endless hatred in his heart, but he forcefully restrained himself now. Because he was also very clear that with his current cultivation, he was simply not Luanhui King's opponent. He was completely throwing away his life. Before reaching the mysterious heaven realm, I won't look for him. Feng Xintianzuan nodded his head, and patted Lin Tian's shoulder again. Senior brother, you can be at ease now. He continued, Now you have already surpassed us by far. Senior brothers can't help you much. However, you must remember, although the old patriarch and the others have passed away, you are not alone. No matter when, master and mistress are still here. Senior brothers are still here. We will always be by your side. And now, other than us, you also have sister-in-law and the others. You have little Roshan, you have 2 younger sisters who love and care for you. You have little Taichu and other companions. Therefore, you must live on, you must live on. Lin Tianwei trembled, and then nodded heavily. Yes, senior brother. I will always remember. Good. Fengshen Tianzuan nodded his head, and his gaze was gentle. We haven't walked together like this for many years. Let's walk around and chat in the depths of the celestial court. After tomorrow, you will go into seclusion to cultivate, and we will also cultivate. Luanhui King, Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Mia were still alive. He knew that Lin Tian must be in a hurry to improve his cultivation and strength. Then, he would find those 4 and kill them to truly take revenge. And he, Handan Tianzuan, and the others wouldn't slack off either. Their junior brother's battle was far from over. The celestial court wasn't over yet. They also had to continue to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could they help Lin Tian more in the future. Lin Tian nodded his head. On this day, he and his 9 senior brothers walked in the depths of the celestial court. They talked about many things. In the blink of an eye, the night passed quickly. In the early morning of this day, Fengshen Tianzuan and the others bid farewell to him temporarily and left the celestial court for other places. He personally sent Fengshen Tianzuan and the others out of the celestial court. He only returned to the celestial court when the 9 of them disappeared from his sight. Chapter 2338. In the center of the immortal court, the immortal emperor pagoda, only Lin Tian, who was the immortal emperor, could step into it. Inside the immortal emperor pagoda, various ancient runes intertwined. The immortal court's earth veins and thousands of spiritual energy converged here. The aura was majestic. On this day, he stepped into the immortal emperor pagoda and sat down cross-legged in the center of the immortal emperor pagoda. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra was activated immediately. Faint 9-colored holy light intertwined on the surface of his body and danced slowly on the surface of his body. 1. The space within the immortal emperor pagoda was instantly dyed with a faint layer of 9 colors by the intertwining 9-colored holy light outside his body. More than a year ago, with the integration of the heavenly secret dojo's energy, his cultivation had reached the peak of the early stage of the reincarnation transformation realm. After that, his reincarnation eye and eye of destiny underwent a transformation at the same time. In the past year, he had reached the mid-stage of the reincarnation transformation realm. At this time, he was in the immortal emperor pagoda. As the Reincarnation Heart Sutra was activated, the spiritual energy in the immortal court surged towards him and drowned him in it. He used the spiritual energy to cultivate, and at the same time, he continued to comprehend reincarnation. Reincarnation was truly boundlessly vast and unfathomable. Although he had mastered reincarnation and could use the power of reincarnation, he was still far too far away from mastering a complete reincarnation. He had not even grasped a single strand of the complete reincarnation. He absorbed the rich spiritual energy in the immortal Emperor Pagoda to cultivate and comprehend reincarnation seriously. The reincarnation light immediately overflowed from the surface of his body. The reincarnation light was pure and gentle, but it was also incomparably majestic. It seemed to encompass everything and could suppress all things in the world. As he calmed down to comprehend, the reincarnation light on the surface of his body danced and gradually became stronger. At the same time, he activated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra to cultivate. The sacred energy in his body also flowed smoothly. Some things that were difficult to understand in the past were now extremely simple and could be understood in an instant. 1. Outside his body, the 9-colored radiance became even more intense, and so did the reincarnation light. Almost at the same time, he was in seclusion in the immortal Emperor Pagoda. In the immortal court, by Ziki, Wishing Crocodile, Little Taichu, Yi Tong, and the others were also cultivating in various special locations in the Immortal Court. They were all trying their best to increase their strength because they knew that the war wasn't over yet. Lin Tian's enemies were Luanhui King, Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Mia. Lin Tian's enemies were their enemies. They had to become stronger and stronger so that they could help Lin Tian kill Luanhui King and the others in the future. Even if it wasn't for Lin Tian, but purely for the sake of defending the primordial universe and protecting their final territory, they still had to become stronger. Because Luanhui Wang wanted to smelt all the universes. As long as Luanhui Wang and the others didn't die, they would never have peace. They had to kill Luanhui Wang and destroy the Celestial Court. Only then would the battle truly end. Only then would this world be truly peaceful. Apart from them, in the Immortal Court's martial arena, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the Celestial Court were residing here. The Bodhi tree was located on the martial arena, the dozens of mountains inscribed with origin returning grade Dao runes brought back by Lin Tian, and the origin returning grade Dao runes left behind by the immortal primogenitor were all located here. The immortal soldiers and immortal generals were cultivating on the martial arena. All the immortal soldiers and immortal generals were serious and solemn. They knew that their leader had an irreconcilable enmity with the Celestial Court. Their goal was very simple, they only wanted to become stronger. They only wanted to become stronger so that they could contribute to their leader in the future. Buzz! Boom! In the entire Immortal Court, rays of divine radiance interweaved in different locations. Even the sky was trembling slightly. Wu Yi, Ruoxian, and the others didn't slack off. Just like before, Wu Yi personally led Ruoxian and the others to cultivate. The daily order of the Immortal Court was arranged by Snow Wolf. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner. Lin Tian sat cross-legged in the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. Nine-colored radiance lingered around his body, along with the light of reincarnation. He silently cultivated himself in the Immortal Emperor Pagoda, silently comprehending the cycle of reincarnation. His essence, qi, and spirit rose little by little. In this way, time passed little by little. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. 5 years later, on this day, the sky above the Immortal Court trembled violently. The sky suddenly turned dark, and a huge thunder vortex intertwined. Inside it, black lightning interweaved wantonly. The entire ninth heaven turned dark for the first time, and an extremely shocking and destructive aura shrouded the entire Immortal Court. Such an aura startled Bai Ziki, 5 elements crocodile, Shinki, Mu Xingshu, and the other immortal soldiers and immortal generals who were cultivating in the Immortal Court. All of them were roused from their cultivation and looked at the sky at the same time. Heavenly tribulation! This, Wishing Crocodile and the others were shocked. They looked at the dark thunderclouds in the sky, and then turned their heads to look at the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. At the same time, in a courtyard of the Immortal Court, Wu Yi, Ruoxian, and the others were naturally awakened from their cultivation. They all looked at the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. Everyone was shocked, and even Wu Yi was shocked. Heavenly tribulation! Father, he stepped into the origin returning realm? Ruoxian was shocked. She knew very well that the heavenly tribulation that appeared at this time was undoubtedly caused by her father. In the Immortal Court, except for her father, no one else could cause a heavenly tribulation after reaching the Immortal Ascension realm. Moreover, it was such a terrifying heavenly tribulation. This caused her eyes to be filled with shock because her father had only been in seclusion for 5 years. In just 5 years, he had actually reached the origin realm from the middle stage of the reincarnation realm. This cultivation speed was simply too frightening. Next to her, Ji Yu and the others were also shocked. In 5 years, Wu Yi, with his heaven-defying cultivation talent, only reached the early stage of the Dao fusion realm from the peak of the soul refining realm. However, Lin Tian reached the origin returning realm from the middle stage of the transformation realm. Even Wu Yi couldn't compare with this cultivation speed. Boom! In the sky, thunder rumbled, and black lightning jumped in the thunder vortex. The aura was terrifying. Gradually, the aura of destruction became more and more terrifying, shaking the 10 heavens. At this time, in the immortal court, a light of reincarnation flew out of the immortal Emperor Pagoda and evolved into the reincarnation heavenly river. Inside the river, a giant beast appeared. Its aura shook the heavens and the earth. Together with the reincarnation heavenly river, it rushed into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the reincarnation heavenly river crashed into the thunder vortex along with the reincarnation heavenly beast. The two collided, erupting with a monstrous roar. The dazzling light directly covered every inch of space, making people unable to open their eyes. Then, in a blink of an eye, a few breaths later, the dazzling light dissipated. The reincarnation heavenly river and the reincarnation heavenly beast disappeared, and the thunder vortex in the sky also disappeared. The 9th heaven returned to normal in the blink of an eye. Such a scene once again shocked Ruoxian and the others. Bai Ziki, Wishing Crocodile, and the others were also shocked. A origin returning realm heavenly tribulation, but now he... Wishing Crocodile couldn't help but tremble. In the past, Lin Tian's first heavenly tribulation was very difficult. Almost every tribulation was a narrow escape. Gradually, with the help of the 5 heavenly thunders, the divine Tao of thunder, the divine Tao of nature, and the reincarnation forging spirit art, the divine Tao of nature, the reincarnation forging spirit art, and so on, the heavenly tribulations gradually became easier. However, now, under the pressure of the terrifying origin returning realm heavenly tribulation, Lin Tian didn't even leave the immortal Emperor Pagoda. In the blink of an eye, the entire heavenly tribulation was destroyed. This was really a bit shocking. How strong is he now? This? Ling Yun's heart palpitated. The white tiger looked at the immortal Emperor Pagoda and said, "Since that time in the illusory flame starry sea, he seems to have become a different person. It's as if he has undergone a huge rebirth. His cultivation is much stronger than before. Now I'm afraid even Princess Wei can't compare to his cultivation speed." "Yeah, I have the same feeling," the little Taichu said. The group all looked at the immortal Emperor Pagoda at this time. They were all shocked by Lin Tian's current cultivation speed. In that place, right above the immortal Emperor Pagoda, a rainbow auspicious cloud gradually condensed. It was mixed with rich and pure origin energy of heaven and earth. This was a gift after the heavenly tribulation. It immediately fell from the sky and entered the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Lin Tian stayed in the immortal Emperor Pagoda. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra operated automatically, guiding this origin energy of heaven and earth to all parts of his body. At this time, sitting cross-legged in the immortal Emperor Pagoda, he actually had the same feeling as the white tiger. Since waking up from his coma in the illusory flame starry sea, he felt that he had undergone a great change. Many things in the world had become much clearer than before. Cultivation was much easier than before. Then, more than a year ago, he recovered his memories. After the reincarnation body reached the grand completion stage, these changes were even more obvious. Since then, the world had become much clearer. His divine instinct seemed to have improved by many times. Cultivation became much easier, and he could understand many things in a flash. He thought about these changes silently for a while, but he did not know why. In the end, he stopped thinking about these things. He focused on refining the rainbow light after the heavenly tribulation, and used it to temper his body. As he refined the 7-colored divine light, his aura increased little by little. After a quarter of an hour, the 7-colored auspicious clouds in the sky dispersed, and all the 7-colored divine light that fell down was completely refined by him. His aura became much stronger. He did not leave the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He consolidated his strength in the true realm in the immortal Emperor Pagoda, and then continued to cultivate. 1. Strands of 9-colored divine light curled around his body. The reincarnation light intertwined with it. It was much stronger than 5 years ago. He had reached the true realm in 5 years, and his cultivation had increased by a large realm. He had undergone a great transformation in all aspects, and his control of the path of reincarnation had undergone a qualitative change compared to 5 years ago. He was much, much stronger than 5 years ago. However, compared to the complete reincarnation, this was still too far away. It was just the tip of the iceberg. Sitting cross-legged in the immortal Emperor Pagoda, he cultivated silently and continued to understand the reincarnation. The nine-colored divine light and the reincarnation light shone together. Time continued to pass. In a blink of an eye, 20 years passed. 20 years later, in the ninth heaven, the sky shook violently. A huge lightning vortex opened up, shaking the heavens and earth. P.S. A book friend asked the dragon, didn't the immortal Emperor Pagoda fuse with the divine sword? Why is he in seclusion in the immortal Emperor Pagoda? The dragon replied that the immortal Emperor Pagoda that Lin Tian fused with the divine sword was a weapon forged from the Grand Mist heavenly crystal. The immortal Emperor Pagoda that is now in seclusion is a building of the immortal court. The two have the same name, but they are different things. Chapter 2339. A huge thunderbolt vortex suddenly appeared above the celestial court, covering the entire celestial court. Boom! Thunder rumbled, shaking the 10 directions. Inside the lightning vortex, black lightning bolts raged like black lightning dragons. In an instant, a destructive aura pressed down. Countless living beings in the entire 10-direction sky domain felt it at this moment. They were all frightened by this destructive aura. Every one of them trembled in fear as if the end of the world was coming. In the immortal court, Ziki and the others, who were cultivating, were awakened again. They were all shocked. Heavenly tribulation, could it be? Everyone looked at the immortal Emperor Pagoda in unison, their eyes full of horror. This, Lord Immortal Emperor! In the martial arena of the immortal court, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court had been cultivating every day for many years. At this time, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals in the martial arena were naturally shocked by the terrifying lightning tribulation. They all looked at the immortal Emperor Pagoda. The immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the immortal court also knew that the leader of their branch, a reincarnated body, was very special and different from ordinary cultivators. After the connecting heaven realm, after breaking through a big realm, heavenly tribulations would still be attracted. At this time, seeing the lightning tribulation above the immortal court, these immortal soldiers and immortal generals naturally guessed that it was caused by the leader of their branch who was in seclusion in the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Their leader had stepped into a new height. At the same time, in a huge courtyard of the immortal court, Wu Yi, Ruoxian, and the others naturally felt the lightning tribulation and were all awakened from their cultivation by the aura of the lightning tribulation. Father, he stepped into the profound heaven realm? Ruoxian was shocked. After 20 years, a new lightning tribulation appeared in the sky of the immortal court. She knew very well that this was her father's breakthrough again. Boom! In the sky, thunder rumbled, and black lightning bolts raged in it. The aura of destruction continued to increase. On this day, the entire ninth heaven was shrouded in darkness. Countless creatures were horrified. The aura of destruction was too strong and terrifying. It was as if it could destroy everything, making countless creatures tremble in fear. Boom! Another thunderbolt exploded in the sky. The thunderclouds trembled slightly, and the destructive aura instantly became dozens of times stronger. However, in the next moment, the lightning vortex trembled slightly and gradually dispersed. At the same time, the terrifying aura of destruction and the boundless darkness that shrouded the ninth heaven also dissipated. This part of the heavenly domain became bright again. The door to the immortal Emperor Pagoda creaked open, and Lin Tian walked out. After being in seclusion for 25 years, he walked out of the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He looked up at the sky, and his eyes were much more profound than before. Father, you've come out of seclusion? Aren't you going to continue your seclusion? Ruoxian rushed forward and grabbed Lin Tian's hand. She couldn't help but ask. You've reached the mysterious heaven realm? Yes. Lin Tian nodded and rubbed Ruoxian's head lovingly. After being in seclusion for decades, his cultivation had been very smooth. On this day, he stepped into the mysterious heaven realm and attracted the mysterious heaven Great Tribulation. After that, he temporarily withdrew, causing the mysterious heaven great tribulation to dissipate. The reason for this was that he could feel that the mysterious heaven great tribulation this time was very terrifying. Although it wasn't enough to threaten him, it wasn't something that could be easily passed by simply sitting cross-legged in the immortal Emperor Pagoda. He needed to find a suitable place to transcend the tribulation, otherwise, it would implicate other innocent creatures. He really reached the mysterious heaven realm? This? Jiyu, Baichio, and the other women were shocked. In the past 20 years, not to mention their cultivation base, even someone as strong as Wui only reached the peak of the Dao fusion realm from the early stage of the Dao fusion realm. However, Lin Tian reached the mysterious heaven realm from the early stage of the origin returning realm. This was simply terrifying. One had to know that the further one went on the path of cultivation, the more difficult it was to cultivate. In comparison, cultivating in the Dao fusion realm was countless times easier than cultivating in the origin returning realm. Even so, in the past 20 years, someone as strong as Wui had only advanced by 2 small steps in the Dao fusion realm. However, Lin Tian had advanced by 3 small steps in the origin returning realm, which was even more difficult. Now, he had stepped into the mysterious heaven realm. This was simply too shocking. You! Wishing Crocodile's eyes widened. The current Lin Tian was simply terrifying. How frightening was his cultivation speed! Beside them, Bai Ziki, the white tiger, Yang Qi, Fanning Xiong Yitong, the little fox, and little Tai Chu were also shocked. Father is so powerful! Ruo Xian's eyes lit up even more. Her father was simply too heaven-defying. Lin Tian patted Ruo Xian's head affectionately. After a pause, he said to Ruo Xian, Wu Yi, Wishing Crocodile, and little Tai Chu, I'll leave for a while to undergo my tribulation. Be careful, Wu Yi said softly. Lin Tian nodded and said a few words to Wu Yi and the others. Then, he stepped out of the celestial court and the 10 Directions ancient star. 25 years ago, the celestial court's heavenly troops that invaded the primordial universe were all expelled from the primordial universe. Now, the primordial universe was very peaceful. Stepping out of the 10 Directions ancient star, Lin Tian walked through the starry sky. His steps were very steady. Soon, he found an abandoned ancient star. The ancient star was very big, but it was completely barren. There were no signs of life, not even a single blade of grass. Stepping into the ancient star, Lin Tian stood on the endless barren land. He immediately released his cultivation and entered the profound heaven realm again. Suddenly, there was a loud boom, and the sky turned pitch black. A huge lightning vortex appeared in the sky. Black lightning bolts rampaged in it like a destructive dragon. The entire ancient star shook violently. A destructive aura immediately pressed down and shrouded the entire ancient star in the destructive fluctuations. Woo! A hurricane rose and swept across the ancient star. Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly in front of his forehead. Standing on the endless barren land, Lin Tian's eyes were filled with vicissitudes. He stood quietly on the spot and waited for the tribulation to fall. In the next moment, there was a loud boom. The lightning vortex in the sky vibrated and the first round of tribulation came crashing down. This was a gigantic pillar of lightning with a diameter of about 10 feet. As it descended, everything in its path was destroyed. In an instant, the lightning pillar drowned Lin Tian. The entire ancient star shook violently, and its territory sank by hundreds of feet in an instant. Huge cracks spread out like a spider web. The ancient star was so big that it seemed like it would collapse in the next moment. Rumbling sounds could be heard. Under the territory that had sunk thousands of feet, rolling magma surged up at the first moment. The scorching air directly enveloped the entire ancient star. It seemed to have turned into a world of scorching flames, which was very frightening. The hurricane swept up even more, and the sandstorm descended along with it. The entire world was filled with thunder and lightning, and black wind howled angrily. Lin Tian stood quietly on the spot. The first round of tribulation fell on his body, but it didn't hurt him at all. Boom! The thunder exploded again. The second round of tribulation appeared. It was a mountain of lightning and fell down immediately. After that, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh rounds of tribulation continued to fall down, bombarding Lin Tian's reincarnation body. In the blink of an eye, 15 rounds of tribulation came down. The 16th round of tribulation followed. The ancient star became even more broken. At this moment, it suddenly became extremely dull. The aura of destruction suppressed everything. The air and time seemed to have stopped flowing. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian moved. The first 15 rounds of tribulation couldn't hurt him. He just stood there and his reincarnation body was enough to shatter them. However, when it came to the 16th round of tribulation, the aura of destruction had reached an extremely high level. It was no longer something that he could block by standing there. Now, he needed to make a move and shatter the tribulation with his saint power. Buzz! The reincarnation light intertwined from his body. Strands of it, vast to the extreme, went up to the sky. The unparalleled reincarnation light collided with the 16th round of tribulation in the blink of an eye. With a boom, the two collided and suddenly exploded into a sky full of rainbow light. In the next moment, the 16th round of tribulation immediately collapsed. However, the reincarnation light didn't disperse, and its momentum didn't decrease. It rushed to the huge lightning vortex in the sky. Lin Tian continued to silently stand at his original spot as he silently looked at the sky. In the past 25 years, his cultivation had improved. His control of the reincarnation light had also improved. He was much stronger than before. Boom! In the sky, the lightning vortex seemed to have self-consciousness. It felt the terror of the reincarnation light. The 17th round of tribulation suddenly fell. The sky full of lightning suddenly collided with the unparalleled reincarnation light in the blink of an eye. The sky full of rainbow light appeared again. The unparalleled reincarnation light was annihilated this time. The 17th round of tribulation was also annihilated. The lightning vortex buzzed. Inside, black lightning flashed, and the aura of destruction gradually became stronger. In the next moment, with a boom, an incomparably terrifying thunder suddenly exploded. The pitch-black lightning vortex shook violently. Within it, shadows appeared one after another. There were angels with broken wings, headless knights, immortals with broken arms, ferocious ghosts, ferocious beasts, and blind blood shadows. After that, a blurry lightning millstone appeared from the thunderclouds. It seemed to be able to support and destroy the world. With a loud rumble, the 18th layer of the primary lightning punishment instantly came crashing down. At this moment, the aura of destruction was extremely strong. This ancient planet began to crack little by little. It began to collapse at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was truly collapsing. Lin Tian looked at the sky. Behind him, the completed reincarnation diagram directly propped up at this moment. It carried endless reincarnation light and mightily went up to the sky. Boom! There was an intense collision. The completed reincarnation diagram collided head-on with the destructive lightning shadows and the destructive lightning millstone. Destructive light burst out. After a dozen breaths, everything quieted down. The completed reincarnation diagram disappeared. The dense lightning shadows disappeared. The lightning millstone disappeared. The heavenly tribulation quickly dispersed. At the same time, the huge ancient planet collapsed with a crack. It turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared from the starry sky. Chapter 2340. The rainbow-colored light was a gift from heaven and earth after the heavenly tribulation. As it enveloped Lin Tian, it entered Lin Tian's body and was refined by the Reincarnation Heart Sutra in Lin Tian's body to stabilize his cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes passed. The rainbow-colored clouds dispersed along with the rainbow-colored light. Strands of divine light intertwined around Lin Tian's body. Now that he was truly in the Xiantian realm, his essence, qi, and spirit were extremely dense. He was like a burning furnace that could destroy everything with a slight move. Gradually, The holy light that was intertwining around his body slowly disappeared into his body. Standing in the starry sky, silver starlight intertwined. He looked in the direction of the 10-direction ancient star and walked toward it. Soon, a universe portal silently opened in front of him, and he stepped into it. The next moment, he left the primordial universe and stepped into a large, broken space where the light of the universe intertwined. This was the Xiantian universe. Nowadays, there was no trace of a macro world in the black-yellow universe, nor were there any stars. It was completely dark. The light of the universe's origin was everywhere, flowing toward the center of the universe in a steady stream. There, at the center of the Xiantian universe, there seemed to be an ancient demon that could devour heaven and earth, devouring the entire universe. Lin Tian stepped into this universe and walked in the broken Xiantian universe, step by step toward the center of the universe. His steps appeared to be very slow, but it was as if he was stepping on the nodes of the heavens and the earth as he moved. Every step he took was endless distance, and every step he took seemed to cross tens of millions of miles. Soon, he arrived at the center of the universe. As far as the eye could see, endless cosmic origin light and all kinds of other lights were surging toward them, forming a huge cocoon of cosmic light. It seemed to be nurturing a supreme existence. Not far from the cocoon of light, 3 figures were guarding it, each with an astonishing aura. As Lin Tian arrived and appeared in this place, the 3 figures naturally sensed his presence and immediately swept their gazes over. All of their eyes were ice cold. However, in the next moment, their eyes narrowed when they saw Lin Tian's appearance. "It's you!" These 3 people were the last 3 divine guards of Lunhui King, Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Mie. The former was at the peak of Origin Returning Realm, while the latter 2 were at the middle stage of Origin Returning Realm. Naturally, they knew about Lin Tian, the reincarnated body. They knew that Lin Tian was the only survivor of that small tribe. They had always wanted to find them for revenge. Now that they saw Lin Tian here, their eyes were even colder. Xian Mie took a step forward and walked towards Lin Tian. "You are as bold as always. You once dared to look for the king alone, and now, you dare to come here alone." As he spoke, his words suddenly came to a halt. The light of reincarnation appeared around Lin Tian. In the blink of an eye, Lin Tian was right in front of him. With a puff, there was no scream. This divine guard of King Lunhui, who was at the middle stage of primordial returning realm, disintegrated and turned into dust. This scene caused Xian Tian and Xian Di to tremble. They retreated endlessly in an instant. "Mysterious heaven realm? Lun, you control reincarnation?" 25 years ago, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals from the celestial court who invaded the primordial universe were defeated. They threw away their armor and were chased out of the primordial universe in a pathetic state. They returned to the only true world where the celestial court was truly established. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals all knew that Lin Tian controlled reincarnation, but Xian Tian, Xian Di, and Xian Di did not. This was because the 3 of them had always been protecting King Lunhui. Their statuses were also very high, so the remaining celestial soldiers and celestial generals from the celestial court did not have the right to contact them. They could not contact them, so they could not spread the news of the battle in the primordial universe and the fact that Lin Tian controlled reincarnation. At that moment, when they saw Lin Tian appear and Lin Tianyi kill Xian Mie in the blink of an eye, Xian Tian and Xian Di discovered that Lin Tian had stepped into mysterious heaven realm and controlled reincarnation. This caused their expressions to change drastically. Almost at the same time, an eye opened in the cocoon of light formed by the endless light of the universe. The eye was incredibly deep, and endless Tao patterns interweaved within it. It was as if the universe was crumbling inside. The eye of reincarnation. The insect in the past was tainted by reincarnation. You also control reincarnation. The eye in the cocoon of light belonged to the master of the celestial court, King Lunhui. At that moment, King Lunhui, who was absorbing the entire primordial universe, sensed Lin Tian's presence of reincarnation, and he opened his eyes. Boom! Monstrous saint energy immediately surged into the air, and destructive storms swept through the area. "Bastard!" Lin Tian roared. His eyes were filled with hatred, and he instantly went berserk. In his left eye, 9 black moons appeared, and in his right eye, mysterious Tao patterns appeared. The turbulent reincarnation aura and the boundless destiny aura interweaved at the same time and surrounded him. The small tribe was destroyed, the old patriarch who raised him, the uncle and aunt who loved him dearly, and the playmates who grew up with him, all of them were killed. That day, Luanhui Wang walked in front of Luo Sha Wang and the others, stepping on the blood mist of the old patriarch and the others, like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon. He would never forget. King Luanhui was the culprit who killed the old patriarch and the others back then. Monstrous killing intent spread out from his body. His eyes were filled with hatred, and it shook the entire primordial universe. He took a step forward and arrived at the cocoon of light. He threw a punch at King Luanhui who was inside. Boom! The broken primordial universe trembled. The fate of reincarnation interweaved, and it seemed like it was going to collapse under this punch. With a crack, the cocoon of light formed by the endless light of the universe shattered at the first moment. The violent punch didn't stop and landed on King Luanhui who was inside the cocoon. Bang! A shocking muffled sound echoed. In this place, the universe collapsed, and King Luanhui was blown away. King! Such a scene made Xian Tian and Xian Di, the 2 divine guards of Samsara, couldn't help but change their countenance again. The real master of their celestial court, King Luanhui, was at the end of profound heaven. He was a supreme saint spirit that was born from reincarnation. He was innately able to control reincarnation and was extremely powerful. But now, the real master of their celestial court, King Luanhui, who was at the end of profound heaven and could control reincarnation, was blown away by a punch from an ant that was once indescribably weak in their eyes. They looked at Lin Tian. At this time, Lin Tian had the eye of destiny in his left eye and the Rinnegan in his right eye. They couldn't help but tremble violently. Such a Lin Tian, who had both the eye of destiny and the Rinnegan opened at the same time, made them tremble uncontrollably. Rumble! Rumbling killing intent surged. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. The light of reincarnation and the light of fate revolved around him. At this moment, he completely ignored Xian Tian and Xian Di. He only had King Luanhui in his eyes. Like a mad beast, he rushed towards King Luanhui again. In just a blink of an eye, he appeared in front of King Luanhui who was blown away and hadn't stabilized his body yet. The light of reincarnation and the power of fate interweaved around his body. Both of his hands moved at the same time, and punched towards King Luanhui again and again. The current King Luanhui wasn't as huge as before. He had a normal body size and was shrouded in the dense and hazy light of reincarnation. Facing Lin Tian's violent punches, the dense light of reincarnation around his body also dispersed bit by bit. Soon, his true appearance was revealed. He had the appearance of a middle-aged man. Both sides of his cheeks were intertwined with natural reincarnation Tao patterns. Bang! 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 Lin Tian's eyes were filled with hatred. His black hair fluttered in the wind. His violent punches landed on King Luanhui's body one after another. In a blink of an eye, reincarnation and fate interweaved. He had launched a total of 80 punches. When the 81st punch was launched, purplish blood splashed out from King Luanhui's body. It instantly annihilated the surrounding cosmic space, forming a black hole. It was also at this moment, under this kind of violent punches, King Luanhui finally recovered. His eyes burst out with glaring cold light. Get lost! The voice was bone-chilling. Endless light of reincarnation surged and disintegrated Lin Tian's violent punches at the first moment. With a bang, Lin Tian was sent flying several hundred zhang away. His blood sprinkled on the cosmic space. Similarly, a large part of the cosmic space was annihilated. Rumble! The terrifying saint light exploded from 10,000 zhang away. Lin Tian stabilized his body from 10,000 zhang away and walked back step by step. Blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. His gaze landed on King Luanhui's body. One was fate, the other was reincarnation. Within his gaze there was endless ruthlessness, endless hatred, and endless killing intent. A violent hurricane of killing intent swept out from his body. Looking at King Luanhui, looking at the culprit who once killed the old patriarch and the others, the aura on his body rose little by little. It was like a volcano erupting. It seemed like there was no end to it. The violent killing intent seemed to be able to shatter everything. Such an aura caused Xian Tian and Xian Di, who were not far away, to tremble violently. That lowly human whom they didn't even put in their eyes back then actually reached such a height now. He stepped into Xian Tian realm and had reincarnation and fate on his body. The aura he emitted at this moment made their divine souls shiver. "You have really surprised this king!" King Luanhui's gaze landed on Lin Tian. His deep eyes were filled with reincarnation Tao patterns. Both sides of his cheeks were also covered with reincarnation Tao patterns. His aura was boundless to the extreme and majestic to the extreme. Just a glance was enough to make one feel intimidated. Looking at Lin Tian, at this moment, his gaze was deep and cold. Lin Tian actually injured him. Just now, he was actually injured by Lin Tian. Although Lin Tian suddenly launched a violent attack and he wasn't prepared for it, even so, Lin Tian being able to injure him still made him surprised. Moreover, Lin Tian had actually managed to control reincarnation just like him. Even though Lin Tian's reincarnation was not as powerful and profound as his own, Lin Tian had still managed to control the same reincarnation as his own. While Lin Tian was surprised, his eyes grew even colder. He was born from the cycle of reincarnation, and during these past few years, he had done everything he could to grasp the complete cycle of reincarnation. As far as he was concerned, reincarnation was a strength that belonged only to him, yet a mere human like Lin Tian had actually grasped a strength that belonged to him. "Today, even if the mortal king makes a move, he won't be able to protect you." His voice was ice cold. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.